Chapter 1236. The 10 great corpse slaves surrounded Longao. Longao did not continue to counterattack, but his eyes constantly scanned the surrounding Bloodgorger bats. The Bloodgorger Bat Emperor. According to what Xiling said, as long as he could eliminate the Bloodgorger Bat Emperor, then the countless Bloodgorger bats around would naturally disappear automatically. If it was an ordinary person, it would be easier said than done to find the commander among thousands of troops. But for Longao, this was not very difficult. His aura covered the surroundings, and in just a few minutes, Longao had already locked onto the Bloodgorger Bat Emperor's position. Spirit Focus Realm? Sensing the Bloodgorger Bat Emperor's true strength, Longao was a little surprised. Longao originally thought that the Bloodgorger Bat Emperor's strength should at least be in the Supreme Path Realm, but he never thought that the Bloodgorger Bat Emperor was only in the Spirit Focus Realm. He let out a long sigh of relief. Just the Spirit Focus Realm, Longao had full confidence that with his strength, dealing with a Spirit Focus beast was more than enough. Step by step, Longao was very clear that he had to hit the target with one hit, otherwise, it would be even more difficult to kill the opponent next time. Longao did not rush up alone. There were endless Bloodgorger bats around. Wanting to approach the Bloodgorger Bat Emperor, was it possible? It was exactly so. Longao used the 10 elder corpse slaves around him to rush towards the Bloodgorger Bat Emperor at the fastest speed. Half an hour later, the number of Bloodgorger bats was simply too many. Even with Longao's speed, it still took a full hour to finally reach the Bloodgorger Bat Emperor's side with great difficulty. Longao spent a lot of effort to force out the Bloodgorger bats around him. Then, the 10 elder corpse slaves surrounded the two of them. Longao had already decided to prepare to kill the Bloodgorger Bat Emperor alone. Facing the Bloodgorger Bat, Longao calmed down instead. The Bloodgorger Bat was always a spirit-focused beast. The slightest negligence, the consequences would be unimaginable. Kill. The God-slaying sword in Longao's hand slashed out, and the overbearing God-slaying sword chi shot towards the Bloodgorger Bat. He originally thought that killing the Bloodgorger Bat would be very difficult, but in the end, Longao stood rooted to the ground in a daze, not knowing what had just happened. The bloodthirsty demon Bat Emperor did not have any resistance at all and was directly killed by the God-slaying sword chi. This was the strength of the God-slaying sword chi? It was completely impossible. Following the fall of the bloodthirsty fiend Bat Emperor, all the bloodthirsty fiend bats in the surroundings disappeared. Just now, before Longao could react, an earth-shattering roar suddenly resounded throughout the canyon. At the same time as the dragon's roar sounded, a golden dragon suddenly appeared. Circling in the canyon, the golden dragon looked like a huge mountain. It was a terrifying sight to behold. What kind of place had he entered? Was this the draconic arcane realm? Master, if you want to evolve your innate divine ability, you have to devour the divine soul of the golden dragon in front of you. Both of them were divine beasts. Although Longao was very fearful in his heart, he was not very worried about a real battle. There was a difference of one level between virtual god and god-slaying beasts. To others, this level was an insurmountable gap. But to Longao, god-slaying beasts were not too strong. The golden dragon kept roaring, and its body emitted a god-slaying beasts. One had to know that the biggest difference between virtual god and god-slaying beasts was the so-called god-slaying beasts. However, Longao chose to ignore it and released his god-slaying beasts as well. Longao's god-slaying beasts was very unique. It had dual attributes, slaughter and thunder. In other words, the dual attribute god-slaying beasts released by Longao was not much weaker than the god-slaying beasts in terms of power. As such, the golden dragon wanted to use the god-slaying beasts to kill Longao was simply a fool's dream. Shameless human, I will kill you today. With just you? Longao retracted his god-slaying sword and formed hand seals with both hands. A horrifying aura burst forth. It was the destruction seal. Ever since he knew that there was only one seal for the destruction seal, Longao had rarely used it. The reason was simple. The destruction seal was meant to be used head-on. If there was a huge disparity in strength, there was no advantage to using it. In fact, one might even end up worse off. The horrifying aura of the destruction seal was enough to crush the golden dragon. "I'll smash you to death." Longao did not use any killing moves. The destruction seal was already suppressing the golden dragon fiercely. At this moment, Longao's body had already arrived beside the golden dragon. God Dragon Fist, Hell Tiger Fist. Borrowing the strength of the two little fellas, Longao punched out one punch after another on the golden dragon's body. Boom, boom. Within the dragon race, the golden dragon's physical body was extremely strong. But even so, every single punch of Longao's was able to cause the golden dragon's skin to split open. Being smashed by a puny human had the golden dragon enraged to the extreme. Roaring into the skies, the golden dragon's gigantic tail swept out domineeringly, smashing towards Longao. The gigantic tail smashed towards Longao with a horrifying force. If Longao were to be struck by the tail, even if he had the Saint Desolate body, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. Even if he wasn't smashed into a meat patty, he would definitely be torn into pieces. Looking at the gigantic tail smashing towards him, Longao did not dare to take it head-on. That was because he knew clearly in his heart that if he were to take it head-on, there was no way his physical body could compete with the golden dragons. Turning around, Longao dodged swiftly. Not missing out on this golden opportunity, he grabbed hold of it and punched out with both fists, piercing the golden dragon's tail accurately. An angry dragon roar sounded. After being hit by the two fists, the golden dragon roared angrily at the sky again. The whole world seemed to tremble. This was the power of the golden dragon. It was too terrifying. Although Longao couldn't use spatial teleportation, his speed was extremely fast. Although the golden dragon's physical defense and attack power were strong, its speed was not as fast as Longao's. It was obviously at a disadvantage. At this moment, the golden dragon was covered in blood. If others were to see this situation, they would probably be scared to death. Shameless human. Shameless? Longao sneered in his heart. The golden dragon's state of mind had been completely disrupted by him. There was almost no suspense in this battle. It was only a matter of time before he defeated the golden dragon. However, Longao did not give the golden dragon any time to breathe. He continued to punch the golden dragon's body, one punch after another. The golden dragon's scales fell, piece by piece. It was a spectacular sight. The golden dragon also knew that it couldn't catch up with its speed. It had no choice but to attack in a large area. The entire canyon shook violently as if there was an earthquake. Firmament Devouring Art. At the same time that Longao used the Firmament Devouring Art, a gigantic black vortex appeared behind him and began to spin wildly. Chapter 1237. The Firmament Devouring Art devoured the divine soul of the golden dragon. According to Long Fu, he had to devour the divine soul of the golden dragon if he wanted to evolve his divine ability for the third time. Roar! The dragon roared furiously. Of course, the golden dragon knew what Longao wanted to do. It didn't dare to be careless and clawed at Longao. Things had already reached this point. Longao was already full of confidence. Sword Force. The terrifying sword chi merged with the sword force and split the golden dragon into several pieces. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Longao started to devour the divine soul of the golden dragon with the help of the Firmament Devouring Art. The black vortex behind Longao had successfully devoured the divine soul of the golden dragon. He heaved a sigh of relief. "Master, strike while the iron is hot." He nodded. Longao was very clear about Long Fu's intentions and immediately began to transform his innate ability. His bloodline was sealed, and it was impossible to awaken it. The previous two awakenings were only on the surface. Even so, the divine ability Dragon Roar was still very powerful. He sat down cross-legged. Longao quietly evolved his divine ability. As for Long Fu and Bai Ling, they guarded him. The canyon was very strange. First, the bloodthirsty demonic bat clan appeared. Then, the golden dragon appeared. Who knew what else would appear next? Just in case, Bai Ling and Long Fu guarded Longao, hoping that he could successfully evolve his divine ability. Time passed bit by bit. After a long time, Longao slowly opened his eyes. He sighed and felt helpless. He thought that he could evolve his divine ability for the third time this time, but it still ended in failure. Master, you failed? Longao nodded and said honestly, yes, just now when I refined the divine soul of the giant golden dragon, my innate ability rejected it. Seems like it's still a problem with Master's bloodline. Unless you awaken your bloodline, your divine ability will stop here. Regarding the meaning of what Long Fu said, Longao already guessed it. Bloodline. His bloodline had yet to break through the seal. It could be said that his bloodline had yet to truly awaken. Although he was more or less unwilling in his heart, Longao also knew that everything could not be forced, especially the matter of the transformation of the innate magical power. If the bloodline wanted to break the seal, now is not the time. He took a deep breath. Without continuing to dwell on this issue, Longao stood up and began to observe his surroundings. Ever since they stepped into the canyon, they had no chance to observe the situation. He couldn't see the end of the canyon. The entire canyon was filled with red fog. Even though he knew that there was still danger ahead, Longao continued to move forward without hesitation. If he was afraid of danger, he would not have entered the draconic arcane realm. Long Fu, the transformation of my innate ability has failed. What should I do now? Long Fu had entered the draconic arcane realm 3 times, so he believed that Long Fu was very familiar with it. Master, there are endless opportunities in the draconic arcane realm. Back then, Old Master entered the draconic arcane realm 3 times, and only on the last time did he obtain a great opportunity. He did not continue asking. Longao knew very well that whatever Long Fu wanted to say, he did not need to ask. Long Fu would say it anyway. The opportunities were endless, and Long Tian had only found his opportunity 3 times. That was enough. Longao began to run. Although he was not attacked by the Bloodgorger bat and the Golden Dragon, he still realized that he could not enter the dragon seal space and teleport. However, he could communicate with Long Fu, Bai Ling, and Xiling. Longao's speed was very fast. If the canyon was not big enough, with his speed, he could reach the end in at most 10 minutes. But what was the result? Longao had been running for about an hour, but he still had not reached the end of the canyon. What was going on? The canyon was too mysterious and strange. Longao did not dare to be careless. He was vigilant of the surrounding canyon. Longao's speed slowed down. Step by step, he advanced step by step. Could it be that he had entered an illusion array? Shaking his head, Longao already had high attainments in arrays. He could feel that the canyon was not an illusion array. If that was the case, then the canyon was too big. Master, be careful. Brother Long, don't go any further. I just sensed a terrifying aura in front of the canyon. It seems to be Nirvana Realm aura. Nirvana Realm aura. Didn't that mean that there was a Nirvana Realm warrior in front of the canyon? Although he knew that there was danger ahead, Longao did not have any intention of stopping. After all, things had already come to this point. He could not just turn around and walk back. Longao's speed had obviously slowed down. It was as if he was walking normally. After walking for an unknown period of time, the surrounding red mist began to dissipate. Then, a huge canyon appeared in front of Longao. At a glance, he could see the surrounding mountain walls. There was a huge blood pool in front of him. Blood bubbles were constantly rolling in it. When Longao first saw the blood pool, he was shocked. He thought that it was the remnant energy of the blood pool. After carefully sensing, he realized that the blood pool in front of him was not the remnant energy of the blood pool in the dragon seal space. Brother Long, the blood in the blood pool is dragon's blood. Nodding his head, Longao had already sensed that the blood in the blood pool was the so-called dragon's blood. Not only that, he could also clearly sense that the blood in the blood pool was not only dragon's blood, but also extremely powerful blood. The blood of the Nirvana Divine Dragon. Longao didn't know who could put the blood of the Nirvana Divine Dragon here. Could it be that the Nirvana Divine Dragon put the blood in the blood pool? That was impossible. Longao carefully walked to the side of the blood pool. Looking at the rolling blood bubbles, Longao knew what the Nirvana Divine Dragon's blood represented. If he could let Longchong devour the blood in the blood pool, he believed that it would be of great help to Longchong. Bai Ling, if I let Long Chong devour the blood in the blood pool, would that be okay? Bai Ling obviously knew what Long Ao meant. Before Bai Ling could speak, Xiling said, Long Ao, I advise you not to do that. I know what you mean. Long Chong's identity is not simple. If he forcefully devours the dragon's blood, there will be no benefits. With such powerful dragon's blood, you can completely integrate it into your corpse slave. I believe that your strength will increase by several folds. Integrate a corpse slave with dragon's blood? Long Ao did not even think about what Xiling said. After all, a corpse slave's body was very special. Whether or not it could be integrated with dragon's blood was not up to him, nor did Xiling. The only one who had the final say was the owner of the dragon seal, Long Fu. Long Fu, can the method Xiling just mentioned be done? Master, in theory, it is possible. However, I am unable to do such a thing. Master, you must do it. Chapter 1238. As for Long Fu's intention, Long Ao already knew Long Ao's intention. Once the corpse slaves merged with the blood, he believed that their strength would increase by a lot. Among the corpse slaves that Long Ao had, including thousands of divine dragon corpse slaves, the most powerful ones were the 10 elders of the 9 Netherworld clan. He did as he said. Long Ao did not waste any time and immediately summoned the 10 corpse slaves from the dragon seal space. Go down. As corpse slaves, the 10 of them did not have the slightest consciousness and could only obey orders. The 10 corpse slaves obediently jumped into the blood pool, and there wasn't even a single ripple. Long Fu, there is a lot of blood in the blood pool. It seems that the 10 corpse slaves alone can't devour all the blood. The entire blood pool was extremely huge. According to Long Ao's estimation, it would take at least 10 giant dragons to fill the entire blood pool. Master, why don't you also enter the blood pool and absorb it? What do you mean? Long Ao knew that his bloodline was very powerful and the power of the dragon blood could not be underestimated. However, as a human, it seemed that it would be difficult for him to absorb the dragon blood. Otherwise, he would have had many opportunities. As for Long Chong, first of all, Long Chong's physique and background were there, so he could not casually absorb the dragon blood. Secondly, Long Chong had already absorbed 100 drops of dragon blood. With time, he believed that he would transform. Master, although your bloodline has not awakened, absorbing a large amount of dragon blood will be very useful for your defense. So that was it. At this moment, Xiling suddenly said, Long Ao, since you want to absorb the dragon blood in the blood pool, why don't you try to merge it with the sacred desolation body? Long Ao did not know what Xiling meant. It was simply a fool's dream to want to merge the dragon blood with the sacred desolation body. Long Ao, although your sacred desolation body is known as the #1 divine body, your strength is too weak. In a situation where there is a great disparity in strength, your sacred desolation body is almost useless. He nodded. Regarding this point that Purple Spirit said, Long Ao deeply experienced it. Long Ao had full confidence in his own sacred body of desolation, but he also knew his own limitations. His sacred body of desolation could completely withstand the attacks of warriors of the same level, or even supreme divine path warriors, as long as it was not a continuous attack, but a single attack. But what if he met a Nirvana realm martial artist? Not to mention a Nirvana martial artist, even if it was a Supreme Tao martial artist, under continuous attacks, he would also die without a doubt. Although the sacred body of desolation was powerful, it was not immortal. If the dragon blood could really strengthen the sacred body of desolation, it would be a good thing. Without waiting for Long Ao to speak, Xiling continued, Long Ao, your sacred desolation body may be very useful before you reach nirvana, but once you reach the peak of martial arts, it will be almost useless. Upon hearing Xiling's words, Long Ao smiled. If his cultivation could really break through the peak realm of martial arts, would he still need the desolate saint body? At the peak realm of martial arts, he could look down on the world. Who would dare to provoke him? As if he could guess Long Ao's thoughts, Xiling smiled and said, Long Ao, from now on, I will help you constantly strengthen your physical defense. At that time, even a divine focus martial artist will not be able to break through your physical defense. Thank you. Longao already knew what Xiling meant. Of course, Longao would not refuse to continuously strengthen his physical defense. Longao, what you need to do now is to enter the blood pool and absorb as much dragon blood as possible. He nodded. Longao did not hesitate at all. With a stride, he directly rushed into the blood pool. In the blink of an eye, Longao's body had disappeared without a trace. In the blood pool, Longao and the 10 corpse slaves were crazily absorbing the blood. Their speed was as fast as thunder from the ninth heaven. In just half an hour, there was not much dragon blood left in the huge blood pool. Longao alone absorbed 3/5 of the dragon blood. The remaining 2/5 of the dragon blood were all absorbed by the 10 corpse slaves. Longao had a feeling that although the 10 corpse slaves had not reached the Nirvana realm, when they joined forces, they could be said to be invincible among the Supreme Path martial artists. Even a Nirvana realm martial artist would not be able to completely destroy the 10 corpse slaves when the 10 corpse slaves joined forces. This was the power of the 10 corpse slaves. As for Longao himself, after absorbing a large amount of dragon blood, he did not feel anything special. According to Xiling, he would leave the rest to her. She would help him with his physical defense. Longao was very grateful to Xiling. This was because Longao knew very well what it meant for him once his physical defense became strong. If one's physical defense was strong enough to battle a spirit condensation martial artist, then there was no need to use a trump card, and one could easily obliterate the other party. After successfully absorbing the dragon blood, Longao was ready to leave the blood pool. As for whether he would continue to stay, he would have to wait and see. But at this moment, the dried-up blood pool was suddenly shrouded by a mysterious and powerful force. Longao, who was about to leave, was instantly shrouded and could not move. Shock was written all over his face. Longao did not know what was going on. Just as he was about to use his power to resist, a black airflow appeared in the blood pool. In less than a few minutes, the entire blood pool was filled with countless black airflows. It also submerged Longao's body. This sudden state was too sudden. From the beginning to the end, Longao did not have time to react. A mysterious dark world. When Longao opened his eyes, he found that he was no longer in the blood pool, but in an extremely mysterious dark space. Where is this? Longao was very surprised in his heart. He did not know what the black stream of air that had just appeared was, and why he had appeared here perfectly fine. Before Longao could react, his eyes focused, and he saw the sky-piercing steel in the distance. There were 4 big words written on it: Draconic Arcane Realm. Not only that, on the sky-piercing steel, there were tens of thousands of dragons. There were all kinds of dragons, and they were very lifelike, as if they were flying. The sky-piercing steel with tens of thousands of dragons flying gave people a deep shock. Even Longao entered a magical state when he saw the dragons flying on the steel. Longao did not know that after he closed his eyes, a shocking scene appeared. The tens of thousands of dragons on the sky-piercing steel all disappeared. In the next second, they all appeared around Longao. Tens of thousands of dragons flew and surrounded Longao. If other people saw this, what kind of expression would they have? Shocking. The current scene could only be described with one word, which was shocking and unbelievable. As for Longao, he was completely in a magical state of enlightenment. In fact, Longao did not know that it was because he absorbed the dragon blood that he unintentionally entered the real Draconic Arcane Realm. Chapter 1239. Inside the God-Slaying Sword. Bai Ling had a worried look on her face because she still didn't know what was going on. They could only sense the situation outside, but could not communicate with Longao. In other words, they could not do anything about whether Longao was in danger or not. Big sister, what happened? Looking at the worried face of her little sister beside her, no one knew that at this moment, Violet's spirit was also worried to the extreme. However, Xiling knew that she could not lose her composure since her sister was already in such a state. Otherwise, what would happen to her sister? Longao is fine. If I'm not wrong, this Draconic Arcane Realm is unusual. Sister, what do you mean? She nodded. Xiling was also in disbelief, but she still nodded and said, That's right. This draconic arcane realm does not belong to the dragon tribe. Moreover, this person's strength is completely above the heavenly axiom. I'm afraid he's not much weaker than us. Hearing this, Bai Ling was shocked. The more shocked she was, the more worried Bai Ling was. Xiling let out a long sigh of relief and said, "This person should be dead. I don't know if Longao's situation is good or bad. If he could learn from this person, he would be able to soar." Both Xiling and Bai Ling did not know about Longao's current situation. In the dark space, in front of the sky-piercing stone tablet, Longao closed his eyes tightly. Tens of thousands of dragons flew around him and danced continuously, surrounding Longao tightly. At this moment, an earth-shaking change was taking place in Longao's body. The dragon blood that he had just absorbed was continuously fusing with his body. It was also because of this that Longao's physical defense was soaring at a terrifying speed. Regarding this matter, it was believed that even Longao had never thought of it. Thousands of dragons flew around Longao. The scene was extremely shocking. At this moment, Longao roared in pain. His soul is really special. Even I can't devour it. A strange and sinister voice rang out. Immediately after, the 10,000 dragons disappeared and returned to the heaven-reaching stone steel. The 10,000 dragons were still soaring in the sky, looking extremely lifelike. "Who are you?" Opening his eyes, Longao stared at the stone tablet in front of him, especially the 10,000 soaring dragons on the stone tablet. Even now, Longao still felt a deep sense of fear. If it weren't for the wordless heavenly book, his soul would have been devoured by the mysterious man, and he would be doomed eternally. Ha 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 ha. A maniacal laughter was heard. Then, a white-haired old man appeared. He looked so weak that he could be blown away by a gust of wind. Even so, Longao didn't relax in the slightest because he knew very well that it was the person in front of him who had almost devoured his soul. It was hard to imagine how powerful this person was. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't afraid. "Kid, are you scared? It's just a remnant soul." Hearing the other party's words, the old man was stunned. He hadn't expected that the other party would still dare to act this way even at this stage. This guy didn't even put him in his eyes. Ha ha ha, what an arrogant kid. Today, I'll show you the strength of a remnant soul. Lin Fan took 3 steps back. Longao was wary of this old man. His soul was nearly devoured earlier on. Even until now, he still had some lingering fear in his heart. Remnant soul. If it was an ordinary remnant soul, of course, Longao would not put it in his eyes, even if it was a supreme divine Tao remnant soul. But the old man in front of him, Longao had an intuition that the strength of the old man's original body was already above the nirvana realm. Could this old man be a powerful being at the peak of martial arts? Even though he knew that this was impossible, Longao still had a feeling. In the next second, a horrifying aura burst forth from the old man. This was the so-called source aura. Sensing this horrifying source aura, Longao was almost certain that this old man who had just devoured him was a powerful being at the peak of martial arts. He was at the same level as Heaven's will. He didn't dare to be careless. Longao also released a powerful aura from his body. This was the sword aura formed from the source aura. The source aura and the sword aura clashed fiercely, causing the surrounding space to fluctuate. The old man was shocked. He said in disbelief, "Source aura, you're at the peak of martial arts? Impossible." The old man shook his head fiercely. He could clearly sense that Lin Fan was just a small, empty God realm martial artist, not to mention the peak of martial arts. If that was the case, why did the aura released by Lin Fan contain the source aura? Don't think that you're invincible just because you have the source aura. I can tell you clearly that it's easy for me to kill you. Of course, Longao didn't have the source aura and it was impossible for him to release the source aura. The person who had released the sword aura wasn't Longao, but Xiling. With Xiling's strength, he might not be a match for the old man. However, in terms of the source aura, Xiling was definitely stronger than the old man. It was because of this that the remnant soul was extremely shocked. He couldn't believe what he saw. Staring at Lin Fan, the old man didn't continue to attack. It was better to be safe than sorry. In the old man's opinion, even if Lin Fan wasn't at the peak of martial arts and was just an empty God realm martial artist, he didn't know what kind of territory Lin Fan had. If he was killed, it would be too late for regrets. Are you afraid? Longao asked back. The old man's remnant soul was embarrassed. He had the upper hand just now, but in just a few seconds, Lin Fan had gained the upper hand. I'm sorry. I still have things to do. I'll take my leave first. Longao knew that even if he, Xiling, and Bai Ling joined forces, they might not be Lin Fan's match. It wouldn't do him any good to stay. However, the old man snorted coldly and laughed coldly. I'd like to see how you're going to leave my territory. Just as he finished speaking, the old man's remnant soul disappeared without a trace. The entire pitch-black space was extremely creepy. Longao stood alone in the dark space. He did not wander around. Instead, he stared at the sky-piercing stone steel in front of him. Thousands of dragons danced in the sky. The words Draconic Arcane Realm were especially creepy. Sure, sure, sure. Just a few minutes after the old man disappeared, countless black skeletons appeared in the surroundings. Each of these black skeletons held a sharp black saber in their hands, emitting a cold gleam. Divine Tao. Sensing the sudden appearance of these black skeletons, Longao's heart sank. This was because these skeletons were all of Divine Tao state. In other words, these skeletons were like countless Divine Tao martial artists. Even though these black skeletons looked slow, they were actually extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they had already arrived before Longao. The sharp sabers in their hands were slashing towards him. Chapter 1240. Sharp blade auras came slashing from all directions crazily. Even if Longao had the holy body of desolation, it was impossible for him to take on the sharp sword gleams head-on. He could not enter the dragon seal space. Longao waved the god-slaying sword in his hand continuously. In just 10 seconds, he had already set up a sword aura shield around him. Pong, pong, pong. Countless sword gleams collided with the sword aura shield, letting out a series of banging sounds. The sword aura shield blocked the terrifying sword gleams, and Longao heaved a sigh of relief. But even so, Longao was very clear in his heart that if this continued, his strength would eventually be exhausted. When that time came, what should he do? Big Brother Long, don't block my energy. If it were any other time, or if Bai Ling were to attack personally, Longao would definitely not agree. Longao would rather be in danger than to put Bai Ling in danger. But at this time, Longao did not reject. In the next second, Bai Ling's energy entered Longao's body instantly, and the sword aura released by Longao doubled in power. Just now, the sword gleams collided with the sword aura shield. Based on the power of the sword gleams, it would take at most an hour to break through the sword aura shield. But now, Longao had Bai Ling's help, and the power of the sword chi shield had instantly increased by more than one-fold. If that was the case, the sword aura shield released by Longao could block the sword gleams for more than 2 hours. But even so, this was not a long-term solution. Longao, leave towards the southeast. Hearing Xiling's words, Longao did not hesitate and immediately shot towards the southeast. Longao believed in Xiling's words. The sword aura shield was still covering Longao, and he left at the fastest speed possible. Ha ha ha, kid. You still want to leave? There was a burst of crazy laughter from within the sky-piercing stone tablet. The laughter was filled with disdain and contempt. Although the old man did not know why the other party had the origin energy, he was sure that the other party was only an empty god realm martial artist, and not a peak martial artist. If that was the case, then everything would be easy. Countless black skeletons chased after Longao crazily. The black skeletons seemed slow, but in fact, they were very fast. There were too many black skeletons in the surroundings. At a glance, there were at least tens of thousands of black skeletons. Southeast, there was a huge black whirlpool. According to Xiling, the black whirlpool. That was the case. Longao didn't even think about it, and directly shot towards the black vortex. In the blink of an eye, Longao's body had already disappeared without a trace. Longao knew very well in his heart that if not for the purple spirit To be able to find an exit within such a vast expanse of darkness would just be a fool's talk. Ha ha ha, kid. Do you think you've left? Seeing Longao disappear into the black vortex, the old man's remnant soul appeared in front of the black vortex. The old man smiled coldly. It was as if everything was under his control now that Longao had left. Inside the black vortex, Longao's body had just rushed into the black vortex, and before he could react, his entire body was enveloped by a mysterious power. A few seconds later, he appeared in another dark space. The sky-reaching stone steel still had the words Draconic Arcane Realm written on it, and it even had 10,000 dragons soaring. Looking at the sky-reaching steel in front of him, Longao was a little dumbfounded because he never expected that he would enter the same space as before after entering the black vortex. The only difference was that there was no so-called black skeleton in this dark space. Xiling, what happened? I don't know either. Let me try to sense it first. Xiling was a little surprised as well. Even Xiling did not expect that the entrance he sensed just now was not the entrance, but a re-entry into the dark space. Wait, what's wrong? Longao, this dark space is not the same dark space as before. Hearing Xiling's words, Longao was a little shocked. If it was not the same dark space as before, then what was going on? Without any hesitation, Longao immediately shot towards the southeast direction. Given the current situation, he only had one choice, which was to continue towards the southeast direction and enter the black vortex, hoping to leave the dark space. However, at this moment, the ground around him suddenly began to tremble, and countless black skeletons rushed towards Longao in a frenzy. Without any hesitation, Longao borrowed Bai Ling's power and immediately began to wave the god-slaying sword in his hand. While the sword energy formed an air shield, the sword energy also continuously swept across the black skeletons around him. Unfortunately, the defensive power of the black skeletons was too strong. Just one ray of sword chi was unable to split open the black skeletons, unless there were 2 or more rays of sword chi. There were even some black skeletons that required 3 or more rays of sword chi to break open. Boom! Countless black skeletons crazily attacked Longao. As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. No matter how powerful Longao's sword energy shield was, it could not withstand the attacks of countless black skeletons. Finally, the black skeletons broke through the sword energy shield. It was a shock. However, Longao was still calm. He did not panic because the sword energy shield had been broken. With the god-slaying sword in his hand, he continued to sweep the black skeletons around him. Sword after sword, sword after sword, it did not stop breaking. Even so, Longao was gradually unable to withstand the attacks. Moreover, Longao directly sealed the god-slaying sword, so Bai Ling and Xiling could not come out at all. Inside the god-slaying sword, worry was written all over her face. Bai Ling was on the verge of tears. She said, "Sister, I beg you, hurry up and think of a way to save Brother Long." Violet's spirit was also a little dumbfounded, because she also did not expect that Brother Long would seal the god-punishing sword at this time, causing her to be unable to leave the god-punishing sword at all. If this was the case, Longao would face the surrounding black skeletons alone. The consequences would be unimaginable. Once the black skeletons broke through the sword chi barrier, it was obvious what the result would be. She sighed helplessly. Bai Ling, the god-slaying sword has already been merged with Longao. Once he seals the sword, it will be almost impossible for us to leave the god-slaying sword. There is nothing I can do. Hearing this, Bai Ling's face became even more worried. Just as her sister said, Brother Long had already sealed the god-slaying sword. Even if it was them, it would be difficult for them to break the seal of the god-slaying sword and leave this place. And this was just them. If it was an ordinary Jianling, would they dare to casually enter the god-slaying sword? However, Xiling and Bai Ling were not worried at all. Not to mention the enmity between Xiling and Longao. Just based on the relationship between Bai Ling and Longao, they believed that no matter what happened, Longao would not seal the 2 Jianling and harm them. Outside the god-slaying sword, the sword energy shield had already been broken. Longao was surrounded by countless black skeletons. The god-slaying sword was useless now. Longao could only choose to meet force with force. His fists continuously smashed the black skeletons. Usually, it would take a few punches to break a black skeleton. Just as Longao was about to use the heaven and earth annihilation, he was ruthlessly hit by the black skeletons. His entire body flew out like a kite with a broken string. Before Longao could land on the ground, the black skeletons around him attacked fiercely again. Longao did not even have a chance to catch his breath. He had to continue fighting, using both his fists to fight the black skeletons around him. If this continued, he would definitely die. What should he do? Kid, weren't you very arrogant just now? I want to see how you can escape from the army of black skeletons today. The old man's remnant soul appeared under the heaven-piercing stone tablet and looked coldly at Longao. In the eyes of the old man's remnant soul, the chances of this person surviving were almost zero. Seeing the old man's remnant soul appear, Longao did not let go of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He immediately rushed towards the heaven-piercing stone tablet. Since he couldn't leave, then he would deal with this person first. Who knows, maybe he could kill this person. The black skeletons around him instantly disappeared without a trace. Although he knew that the other party was very strong, in Longao's view, the other party was still a remnant soul. As long as it was a remnant soul, he would have a way to deal with it. If it really didn't work, then he could only use the power of the blood pool. Although Longao could not enter the dragon seal space, he could communicate with Long Fu and use the power of the blood pool. However, unless it was a last resort, he would not casually use the blood pool. The reason was simple. Longao had used the blood pool a few times, and every time, he would be able to avert danger. However, Longao knew that his luck wouldn't be that good forever. If the blood pool devoured him, then he would only be a killing tool in the future. A killing tool of the blood pool. However, Longao had already decided that if there was a moment of life and death, he could only use the power of the blood pool. After all, if he used the power of the blood pool, then there was still a chance of survival. If he didn't use the power of the blood pool, then there would only be one outcome, which was death. Longao's speed was very fast. Even with the black skeletons hindering him, Longao still shot towards the heaven-piercing stone tablet at a terrifying speed. Around 10 minutes later, Longao finally arrived in front of the heaven-piercing stone tablet after going through untold hardships. Do you think you can survive like this? From the beginning to the end, the old man's remnant soul did not put Longao in his eyes. In his opinion, Longao was only able to release his origin aura. In essence, Longao was still a puny, empty God realm martial artist. Even if he was a remnant soul, he could still easily eliminate Longao. Because of this, the old man's remnant soul was not worried at all. He stood quietly in front of the heaven-piercing stone tablet. Since the black skeletons did not kill Longao, then the task would be left to him. Longao and the old man's remnant soul had just exchanged blows when he was struck. As expected, Longao could confirm that the old man's strength should be at the peak of the martial Tao. Even if he was a remnant soul, he believed that he had the strength of a Nirvana realm expert. Such a super expert was not someone that he could contend against. Moreover, there was an endless stream of black skeletons coming from all directions. As the saying goes, there is a wolf in front and a tiger behind. This situation was extremely dangerous. If he was not careful, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. Chapter 1241. The black skeletons behind him continued to attack. Longao coldly stared at the old man's remnant soul. He knew that if he didn't use the power of the blood pool, it would be impossible to kill the old man's remnant soul. But at this moment, just as Longao was about to use the blood pool, he felt a fluctuation in his dantian. Before waiting for Longao to react, a heaven-reaching steel already appeared. The sky-reaching stone steel was no longer the same as before. After the last fusion, the two Chaos Stone Tablets, the 5 Elements Chaos Stone Tablet and the Devour Chaos Stone Tablet, had already fused together perfectly. Even now, Longao didn't know whether the fusion of the two Chaos Stone Tablets was a good or bad thing. The Chaos Tablet appeared. Looking at the stone tablet in front of him, not only Longao, but even the old man's remnant soul was shocked. Chaos Tablet? This is a Chaos Tablet? Looking at the stone tablet in front of him, the old man's remnant soul seemed to know the origins of the stone tablet. He didn't dare to move. Longao still had some hope in his heart. Because of the sudden appearance of the Chaos Tablet, perhaps it could help him kill the old man's remnant soul and destroy the black skeletons around him. But the result? What happened next completely shocked Longao. At the same time, the old man's remnant soul was also confused, because the Chaos Tablet that just appeared only stayed in the dark space for 3 seconds before returning to Longao's Dantian. Like a tourist, it came in a hurry and left in a hurry. What was going on? Longao was stunned. He thought that the Chaos Tablet could help him deal with the old man's remnant soul and the black skeletons around him. But he never thought that the Chaos Tablet would only appear for a few seconds. If that was the case, it might as well not appear. Ha ha ha, kid. I didn't think that you would have a Chaos Tablet in your body. That's great. That's great. A primal Chaos Stone Tablet was something that every martial artist yearned for, even in their dreams. No matter who it was, they all wanted a Chaos Tablet. The reason was simple. There were rumors. There were a total of 12 Chaos Tablets in the world. No matter who it was, as long as they could obtain one of the Chaos Tablets, they could become a supreme powerful being in the world. And because of that, when the old man's remnant soul caught sight of the Chaos Tablet, he was so excited that he could not wait to get his hands on it. With just you? Looking at the shocked Longao, the old man's remnant soul's heart skipped a beat. However, the old man's remnant soul regained his composure quickly. What a joke. The other party was just a small void god martial artist, and there were countless black skeletons around. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, the old man's remnant soul laughed madly towards the sky. His laughter was filled with endless disdain and contempt. As far as he was concerned, the old man was just bluffing. Brat, I really admire your courage. Since that's the case, I'll give you a chance. Hand over the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet, and I'll leave your corpse intact. Hand over the Primal Chaos Tablet. Longao laughed coldly in his heart. Even if he were to die, he would never hand over the Chaos Tablet. This wasn't to say that Longao wanted the item but not the person. It was just that Longao knew that even if he were to hand over the Chaos Tablet, he wouldn't be able to leave this place alive. Since that was the case, why should he hand it over? Kid, you're not willing? Longao shook his head and chuckled without replying. What are you laughing at? Looking at the other party laughing, the old man's remnant soul could not understand. Did the other party have something to rely on? I'll let you experience the true might of this. Looking at the old man who was looking down on him with disdain, Longao did not hesitate any longer. He immediately connected to the dragon seal space and prepared to use the power of the blood pool. Master, you must think this through. Once you use the power of the blood pool, even I won't be able to help you. In the worst-case scenario, you might just turn into a puppet of the blood pool. How could Longao not know of Long Fu's worries? However, since things had already reached this stage, Longao knew that he couldn't avoid it. In this battle, he could only win and not lose. Long Fu was very clear about Longao's personality. He only reminded him, and in the end, he still helped his master to activate the power of the blood pool. Just as the old man's remnant soul was about to attack, all of a sudden, an unparalleled bloody aura exploded from Longao's body. It instantly enveloped all the black puppets and even the old man's remnant soul. Shocked, the old man's remnant soul was about to disappear. However, at this moment, the old man's remnant soul was horrified to find that his body could no longer move. He was locked in place by the bloody aura. Just what had happened? He looked at the young man in front of him in fear. From the beginning to the end, the old man's remnant soul did not know what had happened. Just a nihility god realm kid. Why would he release such a terrifying bloody aura? Even he was locked in place by the bloody aura and could not move. Kid. Humph. Longao snorted coldly. Since he had already chosen to activate the blood pool, he had to kill the old man's remnant soul and even destroy all the black puppets around him. If one did not remove the roots of the weeds, they would grow again when the spring breeze blew. Longao had always been very clear about one thing. If he did not deal with these so-called troubles, he would become incomparably troublesome when the blood pool backfired. No, I promise you that you can leave here. It's too late. Longao was no longer the same as before. With all the power of the blood pool, Longao's strength instantly soared. As for how strong he had become, even Longao himself did not know. However, Longao had a feeling that the current him could easily obliterate the old man's remnant soul with a raise of his hand. Kid, you can't kill me. You can't kill me. If you dare to kill me, my master will not let you go. Master? The old man had a master behind him? Longao already knew that the old man's true body was at the peak of the martial path. Since that was the case, the old man could be considered a true peak expert on the martial heaven continent. He stood at the same height as the heavenly Das. For such a person to have a master, it could be imagined just what kind of realm the old man's master had reached. However, since things had already reached this point, Longao could not stop. Die. After spitting out the word die coldly, the old man's remnant soul fell to the ground, paralyzed. He was dumbfounded because the old man already knew his fate. The bloody aura released by the other party was too terrifying. He had no power to resist at all. The other party didn't even care about his threat. Would he have a chance to survive? Chapter 1242. Longao looked coldly at the remnant soul of the old man in front of him. With the help of the blood pool, Longao released a bloody aura that even enveloped all the black skeletons around him. Die. Longao spat out the word die again. Then, a shocking scene happened. In the horrified eyes of the old man's remnant soul, he found that his body was slowly being corroded by a powerful blood pool. That's right, it was being corroded slowly. The old man's remnant soul watched his body disappear bit by bit. This kind of painful scene, not to mention the old man, no one could stay calm. In a short few seconds, the old man's remnant soul had completely disappeared. From the beginning to the end, the old man's remnant soul did not have the slightest power to resist. One must know that the old man's remnant soul strength was at the true peak of martial arts. Even the remnant soul strength was at the nirvana realm. But even so, the old man's remnant soul was killed in an instant. One could imagine how terrifying the power of the blood pool was. The power of the blood pool was unparalleled. After dealing with the old man's remnant soul, Longao did not hesitate at all, because in his opinion, he had not used the power of the blood pool for a long time. No one knew when the blood pool would backfire on him. That was exactly the case. He had to deal with all the black skeletons around him before the blood pool backfired on him. If it was an ordinary person, even a Nirvana realm martial artist, it was almost impossible to destroy all the black puppets around him at the same time. The black skeletons around him were all in the supreme realm. One could imagine how terrifying the army of black skeletons was. But Longao's situation was completely different. The blood pool was a super artifact that appeared countless years ago. Even the dragon seal could not completely destroy the blood pool. It could only rely on the powerful dragon seal space to seal the blood pool. But even so, it could not destroy the blood pool. One could imagine how powerful the blood pool was. The bloody aura enveloped all the black skeletons around. Under normal circumstances, it would take at least 10 minutes for Longao to use the power of the blood pool and the blood pool to backfire. But such a large-scale envelopment and killing countless supreme realm martial artists would greatly shorten the time. Kill. Longao roared, and a shocking scene happened. The countless black skeletons that were still there were instantly wiped out by the blood flow. Not a single one was left. Looking at the empty dark space, Longao sat down on the ground and panted heavily. By forcefully using the blood pool, Longao was already prepared to suffer a backlash. As for Xiling and Bai Ling, Longao knew that his life was in danger. If he released the seal and let Xiling and Bai Ling out, the two Jinling wouldn't be able to leave the dark space. As long as the Godslayer sword was not destroyed, Xiling and Bai Ling would be fine. Therefore, Longao had decided that regardless of whether he was alive or dead, he could not release Xiling and Bai Ling for the time being. You killed my servant? Not bad. Not bad at all. Longao was waiting for the blood pool's backlash. But at this time, an ancient and indifferent voice echoed around the dark space, as if it came from the depths of hell. He was startled. Longao stood up and looked around, but he didn't find anything. However, at this moment, a strange and mysterious power suddenly appeared in the entire dark space and suppressed Longao ruthlessly. Not daring to be the slightest bit careless, Longao immediately used the blood pool to release a terrifying bloody aura. The two auras fiercely collided with each other. Sparks flew in all directions. Then, Longao heard a painful roar. Blood pool. Hearing the words blood pool, Longao's heart skipped a beat. Did the other party know about the blood pool? Who was the other party? In fact, in Longao's heart, he had roughly guessed that the owner of the voice that had just appeared should be the owner of the old man's remnant soul. The owner that the old man's remnant soul had just mentioned. It was very hard for Longao to imagine what kind of level the mysterious master's strength had reached. But one had to know. The old man's remnant soul was an expert at the peak of the martial path. Then, to be able to become the master of the old man's remnant soul, it was obvious how powerful the mysterious master was. Longao didn't know much about the peak of the martial path, but Longao was very clear that the peak of the martial path was divided into high and low. This was like Tian Dao and the godly mathematician. Everyone knew that the number one expert of the sky martial continent was Tian Dao, who had already broken through the peak of the martial path. But Longao knew that the true number one expert of the sky martial continent wasn't Tian Dao, but the godly mathematician. In the same peak of the martial path, Tian Dao had no chance of winning against the godly mathematician. Could it be that the mysterious master of the old man's remnant soul was comparable to the godly mathematician? The heaven-piercing stone steel slowly disappeared. The words draconic mystic realm on the heaven-piercing stone steel turned into arms and legs. As for the 10,000 soaring dragons, it turned into a body. The stone steel itself turned into blood, and a huge figure appeared. I, Hayamo, have been sleeping for 10,000 years. I didn't expect to encounter the blood pool divine item here. Ha ha ha, my luck is really good. I, Hayamo, have hope of being reborn. I, Hayamo, have hope of being reborn? When he heard those words, Longao had already guessed in his heart that the other party had already fallen. If there were no accidents, the blood pool within the dragon seal space could help the black demon to be reborn. However, until now, Longao still didn't know who the fallen black demon was or where he came from. What shocked Longao the most was that the heaven-piercing stone steel in front of him had transformed into a huge human, in just a few seconds. The so-called Hayamo was at least 100 meters tall. The muscles on his body were like huge rocks. Just one of his feet was enough to trample 1,000 Longao to death. Moreover, the aura that the Hayamo emitted was many times stronger than the aura of the old man's remnant soul. Longao even suspected that even if he borrowed the power of the blood pool, he wouldn't be able to kill the Hayamo. Although he knew that the Hayamo had already fallen and was only a remnant soul, the strength of the Hayamo wasn't something that the old man's remnant soul could compare to. Longao even had a feeling that the heaven-piercing stone steel in front of him was even stronger than the godly mathematician. The Hayamo's strength was unfathomable. Longao knew that before he used the blood pool, with his strength, he wouldn't even be able to escape from the Hayamo, let alone fight against him. Unless he could enter the dragon seal space smoothly. But would the Hayamo give him the chance to enter the dragon seal space? Kid, what's your name? Longao. Longao? That's a good name. Do you know me, Lord Hayamo? Shaking his head, Longao indeed didn't know who the Hayamo was. It was really hard to imagine how powerful the Black Devil's true body was. A small energy body dares to put on an act in front of me. Longao, show me whatever trump card you have. Let me see it. Black Demon still did not take Longao seriously. In Black Demon's opinion, He only needed to move his finger to easily deal with a Void God Realm martial artist. The result was already decided. Longao did not want to continue arguing. He looked coldly at the huge figure in front of him and suddenly scolded, "You look so ugly. I really don't know how your mother gave birth to you." Black Demon was stunned by the scolding. He did not think that Lin Fan would still dare to insult him when he was already at death's door. Lin Fan was simply courting death. He had seen people who were not afraid of death, but he had never seen someone who was not afraid of death to this extent. Lin Fan even said that his brain was flooded with water. "Ha ha ha, good, good, good. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish." Black Demon did not want to continue wasting time. One more servant was not much. One less servant was not much. Moreover, Lin Fan was just a small Void God Realm martial artist. Even if he refined him into a servant, it would not be of much use. Black Demon only cared about the Chaos Stone Tablet and the Blood Pool. As for Longao's life and death, he did not care. Just as Black Demon was about to attack, Longao suddenly fainted. Before Black Demon could react, a wordless heavenly book shot out from Longao's body. Chapter 1244. The Wordless Heavenly Book. The Wordless Heavenly Book was a very tattered book. If it was placed on the ground, no one would even look at it. But now, a ray of light shot out from the Wordless Heavenly Book. A young man who looked exactly like Longao walked out. The Black Demon was dumbfounded. He didn't know what was going on. To Longao? What was going on? The Black Demon. You know me? The Black Demon was sure that the Longao who appeared now looked exactly the same as the Longao who had just fainted. However, their auras were completely different. In other words, the two Longao were completely different people. So, how did the other party know him? There was no aura at all. The Black Demon was extremely shocked. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't sense any aura from the other party. What did this mean? If he couldn't sense it, there were only two possibilities. The first possibility was that the Longao who suddenly appeared in front of him was just an ordinary person. He wasn't even a post-liminary realm warrior. But was this possible? It was impossible. The second possibility was that the Longao who suddenly appeared in front of him was stronger than him. The Black Demon swallowed his saliva as he thought of this. The Black Demon was almost certain that the Longao who suddenly appeared in front of him was extremely powerful. It was terrifying just thinking about it. "May I know who you are? Do you want to know who I am?" The young man smiled. This smile made Black Demon feel a little uneasy. Who was this person? The Black Demon's intuition told him that this person's identity was definitely not simple. At this moment, the young man emitted an extremely powerful aura. Sensing this aura, the Black Demon's face completely changed. He was frightened, stunned, and at a loss. All kinds of expressions appeared on the Black Demon's face. Ma. At this moment, the Black Demon even stuttered a little. "Black Demon, since you already know who I am, I'll get straight to the point. Please speak, Ma'am." After sensing the power, Black Demon's attitude took a 180-degree turn. His attitude was as respectful as it could be, like a mouse seeing a cat. If Longao was awake and saw this situation, who knew what he would think? "Back then, I perished and my race was sealed. I will definitely avenge this debt." Black Demon was so scared that he didn't dare to speak. Hayamo was well aware of the other party's strength. He was also very clear about the battle. He also knew what kind of super experts had killed the young man. However, he was afraid that he wouldn't even be able to withstand a single move from the other party. Could it be that my lord wants me to take revenge? As if he could read Hayamo's mind, the young man sneered and said, "Even if I ask you to avenge me, you won't be able to do it with your strength." With his thoughts exposed, Black Demon felt a little awkward. He smiled embarrassedly. Now that he thought about it, that was indeed the case. The other party clearly knew his strength, so how could he possibly let him take revenge? His worries were really groundless. Moreover, his original body had already perished. He was only a remnant soul now. The person you wanted to deal with just now was my 100th reincarnation. After so many years, My first 99 reincarnations ended in failure. So this time, no matter what happens, I must succeed. 100th reincarnation? His lord's reincarnation? Hearing this, Black Demon was a little dumbfounded. At the same time, he was a little scared because if he had acted quickly, Longao would have perished by now. If that was the case, would his lord let him go? Luckily, he didn't act. Until now, Black Demon still hadn't reacted. It was too sudden. My lord, what do you want me to do? Black Demon wasn't a fool. He wouldn't believe that there was nothing wrong with the other party's sudden appearance. Moreover, he couldn't provoke such a person. Even if his original body had perished, his remnant soul still existed. However, the difference in strength between them was like heaven and earth. The difference between Black Demon and the youth was like the difference between the old man's remnant soul and Black Demon. They weren't even on the same level. It's very simple. You continue to stay here. If nothing unexpected happens, the Sky Martial Continent will soon fall into chaos. At that time, you just have to protect Longao's life. As for other matters, I won't interfere. So that was it. Hearing the youth's request, Black Demon heaved a sigh of relief. It was just protecting a void god. To him, this was a simple matter. My lord, don't worry. No matter what danger we encounter, I will protect Longao well. I won't let him suffer any harm. Black Demon was full of confidence. Even a remnant soul was a symbol of invincibility in the Sky Martial Continent. Protecting a person was too simple. Furthermore, the youth had said that he wouldn't interfere in anything other than this matter. This was a good thing for him. My lord, do you have any other orders? No. However, Black Demon, I want to know, with your status and strength, why are you sealed here since you've entered the Sky Martial Continent? Who was it that sealed you? Speaking of this, Black Demon's expression sank. A terrifying killing intent erupted from his body. To tell you the truth, my lord, when I first entered the Sky Martial Continent and was preparing to search for the Primal Chaos Tablet, I was suddenly schemed against by a mysterious person. From start to finish, I didn't even know who that person was before I died. My soul was sealed here for over 10,000 years. I tried all kinds of methods, but I was unable to leave. Speaking of this matter, Black Demon felt a deep sense of helplessness. If he had an enemy, that would be one thing. At the very least, he would know who his enemy was. But now? From the beginning to the end, he did not know how he died, nor did he know who killed him. If this matter were to spread out, perhaps no one would choose to believe it. Not to mention others, sometimes even Hayamo himself would not be willing to believe it. Nodding, the youth's expression was grave. He said, according to what you said, the Sky Martial Continent should have a supreme expert. Don't leave this place for now. I'll try to sense just who that expert is. Even though he was filled with unwillingness and fury, Black Demon could only agree. After all, even with his true body's power, this person had been able to do this without him noticing. It could be imagined just how terrifying this person's power was. My lord, you have to be careful. This person's power isn't simple. Yes, I won't do anything. Don't tell anyone about Longao. Just focus on cultivating here. When Longao wakes up, help me take care of him. As for the backlash from the blood pool, you can handle it. Chapter 1245. Although he was unwilling, the Black Demon still agreed. The young man disappeared, and so did the wordless heavenly book. Looking at the unconscious Longao who was lying on the ground, Black Demon was still unable to react until now. Master's 100 reincarnation? If Master did not appear and beat the Black Demon to death, the Black Demon would not believe it. Chaos Stone Tablet sigh. He sighed deeply. When he was young, the Black Demon was killed by a mysterious person for the Chaos Stone Tablet. His soul was sealed for so many years, unable to leave the draconic arcane realm. Now that he finally found the Chaos Stone Tablet, the Black Demon did not dare to snatch it. The reason was simple. The Black Demon was afraid of the young man. Otherwise, he would not have been so respectful just now. In the dark space, time passed by slowly. After an unknown amount of time, Longao opened his eyes with difficulty and let out a painful cry. He stood up from the ground and endured the pain in his body. Longao knew that the danger of the black demon was not over yet. But the result? The backlash from the blood pool disappeared? He did not know what happened. Longao realized that he did not suffer any backlash from the blood pool when he forcefully used the power of the blood pool. If he did not feel it himself, would he have believed it? Black demon. Looking at the black demon who had shrunk to his size, Longao immediately became alert. Longao was very curious. He had fainted just now. With Heimo's strength, why didn't he kill him? Longao, if I did not help, you would have become a puppet of the blood pool. As expected. In fact, Longao had already guessed that it was the black demon who helped. Otherwise, why would he not suffer any backlash from the blood pool when he forcefully used the blood pool in the empty dark space? Black demon, what do you mean? Longao did not say thank you because he did not know what the black demon meant. However, it had to be known that he and the black demon had almost reached the point of life and death. It was already very good that the black demon did not hit him while he was down. How could he help him in his hour of need and help him eliminate the backlash of the blood oath? From Longao's point of view, the black demon was not so kind. Black demon was definitely plotting something. Longao was still vigilant, ready to fight at any time, even though he knew that he was no match for the other party. Longao, I believe you should know that if I wanted to, you would already be dead. He nodded. How could Longao not know what Heimo had said? But what could he do? Longao, there are some things that you don't have the right to know now. You will slowly find out in the future. What did the black demon mean? Longao was completely confused. He didn't know what had just happened. Could it be Xiling, Bai Ling, or Long Fu? Since black demon didn't want to say more, Longao didn't ask. At this time, Longao was at a loss and pleasantly surprised. Seeing this situation, Heimo smiled mysteriously and said, "How is it? Do you feel that something is wrong?" "It's you?" Seeing Heimo nod, Longao was even more surprised. He didn't know why Heimo would help him. Heimo wanted to kill him just now. He was only unconscious for a while, but Heimo seemed to have changed into another person. It was too strange. Spirit Focus Realm. Longao sensed that the Void God Divine Territory in his body had already transformed into the Divine Focus Divine Territory. Longao was stunned on the spot because he knew very well what it meant for the Void God Divine Territory to transform into the Divine Focus Divine Territory. The Spirit Focus Realm meant that he had officially broken through to the Spirit Focus Realm. Longao knew that it was extremely difficult to break through from the Empty God Realm to the Spirit Focus Realm under normal circumstances. However, he had only been unconscious for a while and had broken through when he woke up. It was simply unbelievable. Is this real? Longao was confident that his cultivation had successfully broken through from the Empty God Realm to the Spirit Focus Realm. Even if he met a Man-God Realm martial artist, he would still be able to fight. If it was someone else, they wouldn't be able to do it. However, Longao's situation was completely different. The 5 realms of the Divine Path were divided into the Empty God Realm, Spirit Focus Realm, Man-God Realm, Earth God Realm, and Sky God Realm. Now that his cultivation had successfully broken through to the Spirit Focus Realm, his next priority was to reach the peak of the Sky God Realm as soon as possible so that he could break through to the Supreme Divine Path Realm as soon as possible. Longao knew very well that the Supreme Divine Path Realm and the Supreme Divine Path Realm were 2 different concepts. They weren't on the same level. Heimo, I really want to know why you are helping me. Although he didn't know how Heimo did it, Longao was still very excited because Heimo had saved him a lot of time to break through from the Empty God Realm to the Spirit Focus Realm. Under normal circumstances, who knew how long it would take to break through? At the same time, Longao was very doubtful and dignified because until now, he still didn't know what Heimo meant and why he would help him. It was a little unreasonable. Heimo smiled and said, "Longao, I just said that with your current strength, you aren't qualified to know these things. As for the help I gave you, you just have to remember one thing, and that is that you owe me a favor." "A favor? Does Heimo need me to owe him a favor?" Heimo made Longao a little confused. What did Heimo mean? Longao was very clear about Heimo's strength. He was very clear that even if Tian Dao was here, he might not be a match for Heimo. Longao even had a feeling that Heimo's strength was even above the clairvoyant master's. Such a super expert actually helped him for no reason and even wanted him to owe him a favor. Not to mention him, even if it was someone else, would they choose to believe it? He shrugged helplessly. Heimo had already said so. What else could he do? Since that's the case, then I'll respectfully accept. Thank you, Senior Heimo. One more friend was always better than one more enemy. Not to mention such a powerful super expert. Unless it was a last resort, no one would be willing to provoke an expert at the pinnacle of the martial Tao. Senior Heimo, I want to leave this place. What should I do? Longao didn't want to stay, especially after encountering Heimo. No one knew if Heimo would go crazy and continue to deal with him. Therefore, the best way was to leave this place as soon as possible. As long as he was outside, even if he encountered Heimo, he would have a way to deal with him, and that was the Dragon Seal space. Longao was very clear that even if Heimo was powerful, once he entered the Dragon Seal space, he believed that even Heimo wouldn't be able to enter the Dragon Seal space to deal with him. Chapter 1246. The Black Demon was sealed by the Draconic Arcane Realm. Longao knew very well that if he wanted to leave this place, he had to rely on the Black Demon. However, there was one thing that Longao could not figure out. Since the Black Demon was willing to help him, why not let him help him leave this place? Could it be that the Black Demon was certain that even with his help, he would not be able to break the seal of the Draconic Arcane Realm? However, since the Black Demon did not say anything, Longao did not have the time to say anything. Let's go. Before Longao could react, he was already enveloped by a mysterious force. In the next second, his body had already disappeared from the dark space. Looking at the empty dark space around him, the Black Demon let out a deep sigh. It's not easy to see the Chaos Stone Tablet. There's hope to get out. What can I do? I hope I made the right decision this time. The Black Demon was very unwilling. After all, that was the Chaos Stone Tablet, something that every warrior dreamed of. However, just like that, he watched as the Chaos Stone Tablet disappeared before his eyes. There was no other way. He could not afford to offend the Lord. Especially when he thought of the clan behind the Lord, the Black Demon could not help but shiver. Outside the Draconic Arcane Realm, after successfully getting out, Longao finally let out a long sigh of relief. He already knew that the Draconic Arcane Realm was just a cover. The real Draconic Arcane Realm was the dark space that sealed the Black Demon. Fortunately, it was him this time. If it was someone else who absorbed the dragon blood in the blood pool and entered the dark space, they would definitely die. Just as Longao appeared, the figure of the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon appeared. Looking at the young man who came out of the Draconic Arcane Realm, the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon seemed to be a little dumbfounded. According to the legends of the Dragon Clan, only the Dragon God who possessed the Dragon Pearl could enter the Draconic Arcane Realm. Otherwise, if anyone else entered, they would definitely die. But what about Longao? Not only did he enter the Draconic Arcane Realm, but he also walked out successfully. Hello, Dragon God. Longao could clearly feel that the Nine Firmaments Divine Dragon at this moment was no longer the same as before. If nothing unexpected happened, the Nine Firmaments Divine Dragon should have refined the Divine Dragon Pearl, and his strength should have increased greatly. Hello, Longao. I didn't expect you to leave the Draconic Arcane Realm alive. The Nine Firmaments Divine Dragon really did not expect this. That was indeed the case. Longao was not angered by the Nine Firmaments Divine Dragon's confession. Instead, he smiled and said, "There are dangers everywhere in the Draconic Mystic Realm. I only managed to come out after a narrow escape." Taking a deep look at the Nine Heavens God Dragon before him, Longao continued, "Dragon God, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't think that you can enter the Draconic Arcane Realm just because you've merged with the Divine Dragon Pearl. I can guarantee that once you enter the Draconic Arcane Realm, the chances of you coming out is less than 1%. Hearing this, the Nine Firmaments Divine Dragon's expression turned grave. This was because in the history of the Dragon Clan, Such a thing was too common. Many dragon gods, regardless of whether they had integrated with the divine Dragon Ball or not, would rarely find it difficult to come out of the draconic arcane realm. In other words, out of 10 people who entered the draconic arcane realm, only 3 of them would be able to come out. The rest would all perish in the draconic arcane realm. This was also why the dragon gods of the Dragon Clan were replaced so quickly. The Nine Heavens Divine Dragon was also a little hesitant. Since he had integrated with the Divine Dragon Pearl, should he enter the draconic arcane realm? After all, if he were to fall, the Dragon Clan would immediately choose a new dragon god. Now that he heard Longao's words, the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon began to mutter in his heart whether he should enter or not. Just by looking at the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon's expression, Longao already knew what the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon was thinking. Longao, are you leaving the Dragon Clan? Longao did not hide this matter at all. He nodded. Longao also did not expect the things that happened in the draconic arcane realm this time. Being able to come out alive, he did not want to stay in the Dragon Clan any longer. I'm preparing to leave the Dragon Clan. Can you pass me a message to the Long family? Hearing this, Longao already knew that even if the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon was unhappy, he still wanted to continue the alliance with the Long family for the development of the Dragon Clan. Longao still had a good understanding of the Dragon Clan. No matter what, the Long family and the Dragon Clan had been united against a common enemy for so many years. It was impossible for them to fall out with each other just like that. Otherwise, the two families would not have come to this point today. From the beginning to the end, Longao never thought that the Dragon Clan would fall out with the Long family completely for the sake of the Divine Dragon Pearl. No problem. Longao continued, Dragon God, I have something that I need your help with. What is it? The Nine Heavens Divine Dragon was very curious. He did not know what Longao needed his help with. Combined with the 3 conditions that Longao mentioned previously, the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon would definitely not agree to it first. Dragon God, my help is very easy. I need 100 baby dragons. F***CK. He cursed fiercely in his heart. 100 baby dragons? Did Longao think that dragons were cabbages on the street that could be casually bought? Although he did not put Longao in his eyes, Longao still helped the Dragon Clan to find the Divine Dragon Pearl. The Nine Heavens Divine Dragon did not say it explicitly, but many members of the Dragon Clan already had a good impression of Longao. The Divine Dragon Pearl was the most precious treasure of the Dragon Clan. Longao, what do you need 100 baby dragons for? It's very simple. I have already established the dragon sect. I believe you also know that I was separated from the Long family, so my people also need dragon companions. However, Dragon God, I will not ask for 100 baby dragons for nothing. I can guarantee that if the Dragon Clan is in danger in the future, I can help the Dragon Clan. Not only that. At this point, Longao did not continue, but a terrifying dragon aura suddenly burst out from his body. It was the aura of the immemorial Divine Dragon. As the Dragon God of the Dragon Clan, how could the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon not sense it? Just sensing the terrifying dragon aura burst out from Longao, the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon was shocked. His face was filled with horror, and he shouted, the aura of the old ancestor, Longao, you. Because at this time, the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon was so shocked that he could not even speak. Because he knew very well what the aura of the old ancestor meant. Could it be that Longao was the old ancestor? Impossible. It was absolutely impossible. Nine Heavens Divine Dragon, I will not say any more nonsense. The reason why I can grow to this extent in such a short period of time is inseparable from the help of the old ancestor. You help me, I will also help you. It is a mutually beneficial thing. If it was not for the aura of the old ancestor just now, the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon might not have agreed. After all, the entire Dragon Clan only had tens of thousands of dragons, especially baby dragons, which were even rarer. 100 baby dragons was not a small number. But now, the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon thought for a moment, gritted his teeth, and finally nodded his head and agreed. Chapter 1247. Longao did not leave the Dragon Clan immediately. After 3 whole days, Longao only managed to find more than 100 baby dragons. The heavenly Tao sealed the Dragon Clan. No matter who it was, no one could enter or leave the Dragon Clan, unless it was the divine mathematician or Longbatian. However, Longao's situation was different. With the help of Xiling and Bai Ling, Longao successfully left the Dragon Clan. Outside the Dragon Clan, Brother Long, I'll tell you something seriously now. From now on, no matter what happens, you are not allowed to seal the god-slaying sword. Longao had already guessed that Bai Ling would say this. He smiled. Longao nodded and promised, "Okay, I promise you. From now on, no matter what happens, I will not seal the god-slaying sword." Would Bai Ling believe it? Bai Ling was so kind. If it was someone else who said it, perhaps Bai Ling would not believe it. However, since it was Longao who said it, Bai Ling would choose to believe it 100%. Longao did not continue to talk to Bai Ling. He did not want to dwell on this issue. Not seal the god-slaying sword? What a joke. What Longao had just said would not come true. Because if something like this happened in the future, he would seal the god-slaying sword without hesitation. The reason was simple. No matter when, no matter what happened, he would not let anything happen to Bai Ling. Longao smoothly left the Dragon Clan. He did not immediately return to the Dragon Sect. Instead, he shot towards the Long family. The Dragon Clan and the Long family were not very far away. With Longao's speed, he would be able to smoothly arrive in about an hour. Long family. Longao openly entered, causing the Long family to turn pale with fright. The current Longao was no longer the same as before. His name had spread throughout the Martial Heaven continent. There was no one who didn't know him. Longao had already left his Long family and created his own dragon sect. If that was the case, why did Longao dare to enter the Long family? In the eyes of everyone in the Long family, Longao's entry this time was completely suicidal. In the lobby, Long Ditian was also surprised. He did not know why Longao had come at this time. Longao, thank you for coming. Dragon race. 2 words, the Dragon Clan, was enough. As expected, just as Longao finished speaking about the dragon race, Long Ditian's expression changed, but he was still very calm. After all, the matter of the dragon race being sealed by the heavenly Tao was no longer a secret. In the entire Sky Martial continent, there was no one who did not know about it. It was normal for Longao to know. How could Longao not know what Long Ditian meant? He sneered in his heart. Without any further hesitation, Longao did not want to stay in the Long family for even a moment longer. This was because he was very clear that he had left the Long family and created the Dragon Sect by himself. Many people in the Long family were dissatisfied with him, and adding Long Hang, it could be said that staying in the Long family was extremely dangerous. He took out the letter and handed it over to Long Ditian. This is what the heavenly divine dragon asked me to give to you. Longao, you mean to say that you have entered the dragon race? No. Since Longao had entered the dragon race, then how did he leave the dragon race? One had to know that the dragon race had already been sealed by the heavenly Tao. In this world, other than the divine mathematician, who else could break the seal and enter the dragon race? Longao did not hide anything, but he did not tell him about Xiling and Bai Ling, so that's how it is. I really didn't expect that you could enter and leave the dragon race by yourself. That's great. Long Ditian was very excited. Ever since the heavenly Tao had sealed the dragon race, he had been very worried about the safety of the dragon race. He did not know if the dragon race was alive or dead. Since Longao was able to leave the Dragon Clan alive and bring out a letter from his old companion, at the very least, it meant that although the heavenly Tao had sealed the Dragon Clan, it had not massacred the Dragon Clan. This way, Long Ditian heaved a long sigh of relief. After reading the letter, Long Ditian's expression became even more serious. Longao, I hope that you can do me a favor. It can be considered helping the Long family. How about it? Here it comes again. The moment he agreed to the heavenly divine dragon, Longao already knew that once he was involved in the dragon race and the Long family, he would definitely be in an endless amount of trouble. As expected, it had already come. Could he refuse? Although he had already left the dragon race, unless it was a last resort, Longao did not want to completely fall out with the Long family. After all, the current dragon sect was still too weak. He was extremely unwilling. Tell me about it first. Long Dition did not mind Longao's attitude at all and said, Longao, since you can enter and leave the dragon race from now on, I hope that you can help me enter every 3 days to see if there's anything wrong with the dragon race. Every 3 days? Longao never thought that Long Dition's appetite would be so big. Not to mention every 3 days, even if it was every 3 years, he might not even want to enter the dragon race. The grudge between the Long family and the Heavenly Tao, the grudge between the dragon race and the Heavenly Tao, what did it have to do with him? Even if the Long family and the dragon race were destroyed by the Heavenly Tao, it had nothing to do with him. However, Longao would not say what he wanted to say. Longao, don't worry. I won't ask you to help for nothing. As long as you are willing, not only can the Long family let bygones be bygones, they can even help your dragon sect develop in the future. Furthermore, the Long family's ancestral hall can be opened as you wish. Longao could not resist such a temptation. He knew very well what the Long family's ancestral hall meant. If the family's disciples could enter the ancestral hall to awaken their bloodline, it would be extremely beneficial for the family's cultivation. However, Longao was not a fool. He knew very well in his heart that once he agreed, there would be endless troubles. He might even provoke the Heavenly Tao. If that was the case, his identity might be exposed in advance. For him, there was no benefit at all. With his current strength, he would definitely die if he encountered the Heavenly Tao. Was it worth it? Was it really worth it to offend the Heavenly Tao for an ancestral hall? The Long family's hall was silent. Long Dition did not speak, and neither did Longao. Both of them had their own ulterior motives. Time trickled by. After an unknown period of time, Longao finally opened his mouth and said, Patriarch, forgive me for being powerless. Without waiting for Long Dition to speak, Longao continued, I believe you should know that the Heavenly Tao is the one sealing the dragon race. As the #1 expert of the Tianwu continent, if the Heavenly Tao finds out that I have entered the dragon race, I will be in great trouble. There is no need for me to provoke the Heavenly Tao. What do you think? Long Dition was speechless because he asked himself, if he was in Longao's position, would he agree? However, the Heavenly Tao had sealed the dragon race. Other than the divine mathematician, only Longao could enter the dragon race. If Longao did not help, he would not know the situation of the dragon race. This way, they would be in an even more passive position. Chapter 1248. Longao directly refused. Although the ancestral hall was very tempting, it was not worth it to provoke the heavens for it. At the very least, he could not provoke the heavens now. He did not seem surprised at all, because in the entire sky martial continent, other than the divine mathematician, no one dared to provoke the heavens for the dragon race. He believed that even the divine mathematician would not casually make a move. If Longao did not agree, this matter would be very difficult. Long Dition would definitely not be willing to give up. However, before Long Dition could speak, Longao had already said, Patriarch, if there is nothing else, I will take my leave first. Without waiting for Long Dition to speak, Longao had already turned and left. In the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared without a trace. Just as Longao left, Longbo's figure appeared. Father, Longao can enter the dragon race as he pleases, but he is not willing to help us. What should we do? What should we do? Hearing his son's question, Long Dition's expression turned ugly. If Longao was not willing to help, he had no other choice. He could not hold a knife to Longao's neck and force Longao to help him. Seeing that his father did not speak, Longbo had already guessed. Father, if it really doesn't work, why don't we use force? I don't believe that Longao won't give in. From the beginning to the end, Longbo did not put Longao in his eyes at all. In Longbo's opinion, the reason why Longao had such achievements was that he was lucky, had someone to help him, and had peerless treasures. Other than that, his own strength was so weak that it could be bought. He had not even reached the divine Tao realm. Until now, Longbo and Long Ditian did not know that Longao's cultivation had successfully broken through to the divine Tao realm and was even at the spirit condensation realm. In just a few short months, Longao had risen from the ninth heaven half-god to the spirit condensation realm. If the two of them knew about this cultivation speed, who knew what they would think? He waved his hand. That's not a good idea. The exalted Master God Diviner already gave orders that Longao would be able to help the clan and the dragon folk. Apparently, Longao really is something else. Long Ditian had never expected that Longao would be able to enter and leave the dragon clan by himself. The heavenly Tao was a supreme expert between heaven and earth. The Way of the Heavens was an expert at the pinnacle of martial arts. The heavenly Tao was a super expert who possessed the power of the origin. Putting everything else aside, just the heavenly Way's seal on the dragon clan's origin energy was enough to make it impossible for anyone to break the origin energy seal and enter the dragon clan unless they were at the peak of the martial way. Until now, Long Ditian still could not figure out how Longao had done it. Long Ditian believed in the oracle's prophecy, but Longbo didn't believe it. Father, Longao is not willing to help. We don't know what's going on in the dragon clan. You can leave first. Since his father had said so, Longbo did not dare to stay any longer and turned to leave. Outside the dragon clan, Longao sneered, because from the beginning to the end, he had never thought of helping the dragon clan and the Long family. It was still the same sentence. Whether the Long family and the dragon clan lived or died had nothing to do with him. Heavenly Tao. No matter who it was for, Longao knew very well that he would definitely fight with the heavenly Tao in the future, but not now. For the sake of the dragon clan and the Long family, provoking the heavenly Tao was simply stupid. Not to mention himself, no matter who it was, they would not make such a choice. But in the next second, Longbo, looking at the figure that flashed in front of him, Longao was not surprised in the slightest. He could not say who Longbo was. Whether he was an enemy or a friend was still uncertain. Longao did not hesitate at all. With a stride forward, his entire body had already shot out. The two of them were extremely fast, like two cool breezes blowing past, on a desolate mountain peak far away from the dragon clan. At the peak of the mountain, Longao and Longbo looked at each other. The two of them didn't say anything. They just stood there quietly and watched. May I know why you're looking for me? It's very simple. Longao, I hope you can agree to the family. As expected, Longao had already guessed that Longbo was looking for him this time because of what Long Ditian had said to him just now. This time, Longao did not hesitate at all. He still shook his head, expressing his rejection. Just now, he had even rejected the patriarch of the Long family, let alone a mere Longbo Longao. Other than what father promised you. As long as you agree, I can promise you that from now on, I will help you and the dragon sect with all my might. I believe you already know that if nothing goes wrong, I will become the patriarch of the Long family in the future. After saying that, Longbo did not continue, but the meaning behind his words was already very clear. If it was anyone else who said this, Longao would definitely scoff. What kind of joke was this? How could it be so simple to become the patriarch of the Long family? After all, the Long family was one of the top 10 existences in the Sky Martial continent. However, Longao did not doubt Longbo's words at all. As the son of Long Ditian, Longbo already had the advantage. Furthermore, Longbo was the #1 genius of the Long family. Even in the Sky Martial continent, he was an extremely powerful figure. If nothing went wrong, Longbo would almost be the next patriarch of the Long family. But even so, what did it have to do with him? Longao was also drunk, and said with a helpless smile, Longbo, let's get straight to the point. I believe you know better than me what the heavenly Tao represents. I am no longer a member of the Long family, and similarly, I have nothing to do with the Long family. As for the dragon race, it has nothing to do with me. So I will not take the risk to provoke the heavenly Tao for the sake of the Long family and the dragon race. No matter who it is, Long Ditian can't, and you can't either. Without giving Longbo a chance to speak, Longao continued, I believe that no matter who it is, they will not agree to this matter. So, forgive me for being unable to help. Longao's meaning was very clear. It was a blatant rejection. The danger of the heavenly Tao was right there. As long as one's brain was not filled with water, he believed that no one would be willing to agree. If it was any other matter, Longbo would definitely not personally appear, and he believed that Long Ditian would not appear either. However, this matter was of great importance. Not only did it concern the life and death of the dragon race, it also concerned the life and death of the Long family. If anything happened to the dragon race, the Long family would also suffer. Longbo was confident that he would become the next patriarch, and because of this, he had to ensure the safety of his family. Longao, do you know the consequences of rejecting me? Threat. It was a blatant threat. Longbo had the status and strength to threaten him, but Longao did not care. He sneered and said, Longbo, don't think that the world belongs to the Long family. I will still say the same thing. I will not agree to your request. Unless the Long family can give me half of its power, and the dragon race can also give it to me, otherwise, I advise you to save your energy. Hearing this, Longbo's face instantly became angry. Longao was obviously playing with him. Was it possible for him to hand over half of his power? Chapter 1249. Regarding Longbo's strength, Longao was very clear. As the number one genius of the Long family, Longbo's cultivation had already successfully reached the peak of the Supreme Divine Tao, which was the so-called peak Divine Emperor, just one step away from breaking through to the Nirvana realm. If it were others, they would definitely be very afraid. After all, the Supreme Divine Tao and the Supreme Divine Tao were two different concepts. But Longao, without the slightest fear, he was not even afraid of the entire Long family, let alone Longbo. Being rejected directly, Longbo's face was very gloomy. Longao, do you know the consequences of refusing? Nodded. Longao said with a smile, at most, we'll go to war. Ever since I left the Long family, I've been prepared. I don't have the slightest problem. When the Long family goes to war, I'll accompany. Not afraid of war. It would be a lie to say that he was not surprised. Longbo never thought that Longao did not even put the Long family in his eyes. Could it be that Longao had nothing to fear? Thinking about Longao's previous actions, Longbo was also a little afraid. If Longao really had something to rely on, then things would be troublesome. But things had already reached this point. If Longao still did not agree, where would his face be? Where would his father's face be? Where would the Long family's face be? Longao, waving his hand, Longao's face was clearly a little disgusted. Without giving Longbo any chance to speak, he already said, Longbo, you don't have to be like this. I won't agree to this. If you want to fight, then fight. I'll accompany you anytime. Longao's tough attitude caught Longbo a little off guard. Goodbye. Longao did not continue to stay and turned to leave. Looking at the gradually disappearing figure, Longbo's face became more and more gloomy, as ugly as it could be. For so many years, no one dared to treat him like this. Not only did he reject him, he even rejected his father and the entire Long family. If he did not see it with his own eyes, he would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. Chase? Or not to chase? Longbo knew that, because of Master God Diviner's prophecy, there was no way he could kill Longao. However, there was no way he could swallow his anger. What should he do? After leaving the peak of the mountain, Longao did not hesitate any longer and shot toward the sect at full speed. 2 hours later, Longao dodged in time and looked coldly at Long Hang, who had suddenly appeared in front of him. He sneered and said, Long Hang, you're a Long family's great elder. How could you do such a shameless thing? How shameless. If news of Long Hang's sneak attack were to spread, Long Hang would probably die of laughter. However, Long Hang didn't care. He had thought that dealing with Longao would be a piece of cake, and that he would be able to take care of him with just a flick of his finger. But what was the result? After such a long time, no matter what he did, Longao was still alive and well. Face. He had completely lost his face. That was why, even though he knew that it was shameless, Long Hang still attacked without hesitation. As long as he could kill Longao, this matter would not be leaked. Longao, do you think you can leave here alive? If it was before, even if Longao knew that he couldn't defeat Longhang, he wouldn't be worried at all. After all, he had the 5-element slave by his side, and it was more than enough to fight against a Nirvana realm martial artist. However, when he entered the Draconic Arcane Realm, the 5-element slave had been completely destroyed. In other words, if Longao were to face a Nirvana realm martial artist at this moment, there seemed to be no other way except to run. Are you scared? Scared? Longao smiled and said, Longhang, aren't you overestimating yourself? Let's see. However, at this moment, Longhang's attitude suddenly changed. He said, Longao, I know that you can enter the Dragon Clan. I'll give you a chance now. As long as you tell me how to enter the Dragon Clan, not only will I let you go, but I'll also help you. So that's how it is. Longao laughed in his heart. Whether it was Long Dition, Longbo, or Longhang who just appeared, they all wanted to enter the Dragon Clan. He sneered. He didn't even agree to Long Dition and Longbo's request. Would he agree to Longhang's request? Longhang, do you think I'll tell you?
Yes.
Longhang said firmly and confidently. He continued, Longao, I'm sure that you'll tell me. You should know the consequences of not telling me. Not only was Longhang the great elder of the Long family, but he was also a Nirvana realm martial artist. In Longhang's eyes, he could easily deal with a small Longao without any effort. Idiot. Ha ha ha, Longao, it doesn't matter if you don't tell me. I'll make you tell me. Longhang laughed crazily. Suddenly, a terrifying chi of heaven and earth erupted from Longhang's body and fiercely suppressed Longao. However, in the next second, a terrifying chi of heaven and earth also erupted from Longao's body. The two chi of heaven and earth collided fiercely. Longhang wasn't surprised at all because many people already knew that although Longao's cultivation hadn't broken through to the Nirvana realm, he already possessed the chi of heaven and earth. After Longhang released his chi of heaven and earth, he took a big stride forward and shot towards Longao. Before he even arrived, his killing intent had already arrived. Both of his fists were also fiercely smashing towards Longao. Although Longao believed in his own strength, he also knew his own limits. If he met force with force, he would only die. Without the slightest hesitation, Longao's body suddenly disappeared. That's right, Longao's body had disappeared into thin air. This time, Longhang was completely dumbfounded. He had powerful strength, but he couldn't use it. Longhang really couldn't figure out what method Longao used to disappear for no reason. Longao, I know you haven't left, but it doesn't matter. You can leave, but your dragon sect can't run away. The monk can run away, but the temple can't run away. However, Longhang wouldn't openly deal with the dragon sect. Long Dition had already ordered that no matter who the Long family was, they couldn't touch Longao. Those who disobeyed would be killed without mercy. Not to mention others, even Longhang didn't dare to disobey. Although he and Long Dition had always been on bad terms, he knew his own limits. His status was still inferior to Long Dition's. Longao, get out here. Longao, you can't run away. Get out here. No matter how Longhang roared in anger, Longao didn't appear. Longhang was extremely angry, but he still couldn't do anything. After all, the other party had a super spatial artifact. Even if he was a Nirvana realm warrior, he still couldn't find the other party. Longhang clenched his fists tightly and looked left and right. He tried to sense with all his might, but in the end, he still couldn't find anything. He cursed fiercely. Longhang had no choice but to turn around and leave. In a short while, Longhang's figure had already disappeared without a trace. Chapter 1250. Inside the Dragon Seal Space. Longao was not worried at all because even if Longhang was a Nirvana martial artist, he would not be able to enter the Dragon Seal Space. His expression was solemn. Without the help of the 5-element slaves, Longao knew that once he encountered a Nirvana martial artist, he could only run away. If this continued, it would not be a solution. Longao was almost certain that if Long Hang could not find him this time, he would definitely secretly deal with the sect. If this person was not eliminated, there would be endless trouble in the future. Long Hang's identity and strength were there. Not only was he the great elder of the Long family, but he was also a Nirvana martial artist. It would not be easy to deal with Long Hang. Long Ao did not immediately go out. For a full day and night, Long Ao repeatedly confirmed that Long Hang was not around before leaving the Dragon Seal space and quietly headed for the sect. The current Dragon sect was no longer as grand as when it was just established. According to Long Ao, the sect must be low-key. After all, it was an eventful time. There was a wolf in front and a tiger behind. If one took a wrong step, they would fall into eternal damnation. As long as there were no traitors in the Dragon sect, then no one in the Tianwu continent could find traces of the Dragon sect. Returning to the Dragon sect, Dugubai and Long Ying were very happy and roughly told him what had happened in the Dragon sect during this period. After listening, Long Ao nodded, very satisfied. There was no doubt about Dugubai and Long Ying's ability. Long Ao was very assured. Otherwise, he would not have handed the Dragon sect to them. Before Long Ao could rest, 5 uninvited guests had already arrived. In the main hall, looking at the 5 people in front of him, Long Ao was very shocked. He did not know how the 5 abyssal masters of the Massacre Abyss could find him. There were a total of 5 abyssal masters in the Massacre Abyss. They were the East Abyssal Master Hong Lingtong, the South Abyssal Master Yang Ling, the West Abyssal Master Luo Qingfeng, the North Abyssal Master Guali, and the Middle Abyssal Master Yichun. Master Long, we only have one purpose for coming here. From now on, if you have any orders, just give the order. Hearing the 5's words, Long Ao was completely dumbfounded. He had no idea what was going on. What was going on? Why were the 5 of them acting like this for no reason? Although the 5 of them did not say it explicitly, Long Ao knew very well that the 5 of them wanted to become affiliated with the Dragon sect. Was that even possible? Long Ao knew that the grudge between him and the 5 lords of the Abyss had reached the point where one of them had to die or the other would die. Under normal circumstances, they would definitely fight to determine the winner. Long Ao was still preparing to settle the matters of the sect and immediately enter the Slaughter Abyss. But now, it seemed that there was no need to go. Cough, cough. Gentlemen, I really want to know what happened. Master Long, you don't have to ask too much about this. Anyway, from now on, the Slaughter Abyss is affiliated with the Dragon sect. We'll listen to everything you say. We'll go through water and tread on fire without hesitation. The 5 of them were obviously unwilling to say more, and Long Ao did not continue to ask. It would be a lie to say that he was not excited. Long Ao knew very well what it meant once he subdued the Slaughter Abyss. Although Long Ao was very excited, he was more or less afraid because until now, he did not know why the 5 of them would submit to him out of the blue. This was a little strange. As if he could see Long Ao's thoughts, Hong Lingtong said with a smile, Master Long, you don't have to be confused. If we wanted to deal with you, we wouldn't have to do this at all. It's not convenient for us to tell you the reason now. He nodded. Since they had already said so much, could Long Ao still choose not to believe them? Intuition told Long Ao that the 5 of them did not come to him for any conspiracy. Just as Hong Lingtong said, if the 5 of them wanted to start a war, there was no need to go through so much trouble. After all, the 5 of them were not only powerful, but also had the entire Slaughter Abyss as their backing. Long Ao was just worried that his sect could not continue to be hidden like this. But now, with the addition of the Slaughter Abyss, everything became hopeful. Master Long, what should we do now? What should they do? Long Ao thought for a moment and said, You all go back first. I'll tell you what to do in the future. By the way, when you go back this time, remember one thing. You must not let the 10 direction cauldrons interfere in the Slaughter Abyss. Understood. Then we'll take our leave first. The 5 of them did not continue to stay and turned to leave. Happiness came too suddenly. No matter how long Ao thought about it, he still felt that this matter was a little strange. Why would the 5 Abyss Masters submit to him for no reason? No matter what, the 5 Abyss Masters' identity and strength were there. There was no need for them to do this. 7th brother, this matter is a little strange. We should be careful. Long Ao nodded. How could he not know about his brother's worries? Big brother, I can clearly sense that the five of them did not hide anything. The submission of the slaughter abyss this time is a good thing for our dragon sect. Since Long Ao had already said so, even if Long Ing and Dugu Bai still had doubts in their hearts, they could only swallow them in their stomachs. Brother Long, since the slaughter abyss has submitted to us, why don't we take advantage of this time to develop the sect's strength? I trust that our speed of development will be incomparably fast. Even if we can't join the 10 direction cauldrons, I trust that we'll be able to surpass all the second-rate powers. With regards to the strength of the Massacre Abyss, Dugu Bai and Long Ing had roughly heard from Long Ao. There were 5 Nirvana Realm martial artists, hundreds of Supreme Dao martial artists, and even Supreme Dao martial artists. There were at least 30 of them. With such a powerful strength, once they helped the sect, it could be said that they were like charcoal in snowy weather, like adding wings to a tiger. However, Long Ao shook his head. Now is not the time. Seventh brother, what do you mean? Long Ing and Dugu Bai were very curious. The two of them did not know why their seventh brother would not properly grasp such a rare opportunity. After all, it was unknown whether the Slaughter Abyss would be willing to submit in the future. Their meaning was very simple. They wanted to use the Slaughter Abyss as a rare opportunity to quickly develop their strength and strive to join the Martial Heaven continent. That would be the greatest advantage for their sect. However, the two of them were even more clear that although they were the Dragon Sect's master and vice-master, the one who truly made the decisions was Long Ao, not them. Big brother Dugu, I know what you mean, but now is not the time. The heavenly Daos have suddenly sealed the dragon race. If we choose this time to rise, I trust that the 10 direction cauldrons will unite against us. There's no need for us to take this risk. Let's wait and see. As long as the Slaughter Abyss helps us, we can act at any time. Chapter 1251. Dugu Bai and Long Ing naturally chose Long Ao. In their hearts, Long Ao was an omnipotent person. A person who had reached the divine Tao in just a few years, in the Sky Martial continent, was definitely unprecedented. At this moment, Long Ao's face suddenly changed. He took out a token from his bosom and said in surprise, "Old Ancestor has finally succeeded in his reincarnation." Hearing the words Old Ancestor, both Long Ing and Dugu Bai were pleasantly surprised. The two of them were very clear what the Old Ancestor meant. 7 cycles of reincarnation. Before Long Batian entered the cycle of reincarnation, he had already succeeded in his 6th cycle. After this success, he would succeed in his 7th cycle. A martial artist who had gone through 7 cycles of reincarnation, just thinking about it made one excited. But one had to know, Long family's old ancestor, Long Tian, was only a martial artist who had gone through 9 cycles of reincarnation. As long as Long Batian continued to reincarnate, he would not be far from the 9th cycle of reincarnation. Seventh brother, what are you going to do now? Big brother, the old ancestor and I have an agreement. As long as he succeeds in reincarnation, I will leave to find him. The two of them were at a loss. They did not know what Long Ao meant. He smiled. Although the old ancestor has successfully reincarnated, but if there are no accidents, the current old ancestor, even a Xintian martial artist, can easily kill him. So, I have to find the old ancestor as soon as possible to ensure his safety. The old ancestor was very important to him. Nothing must happen to him. Seventh brother, when are you going to leave? Right away. Long Ao knew the seriousness and urgency of the matter. Every minute delayed, the old ancestor would be in more danger. So, Long Ao immediately got up and prepared to find Long Batian. Without the token, without Long Batian's chi on the token, Long Ao wanted to find the whereabouts of a person in the vast Sky Martial continent, especially an unawakened reincarnation martial artist. It was simply like looking for a needle in a haystack. But Long Ao was not worried in the slightest. Previously, when Long Batian entered the cycle of reincarnation, he gave Long Ao a token. The token had his chi, that was to say, Long Ao could rely on the token's chi to find Long Batian. Outer Sea, in the Crystal Palace. As soon as Master Godly Mathematician returned, Long Batian appeared. Brother Long, why are you in such a hurry? What happened? Master God Diviner had just returned, and before he could do any calculations, Long Batian appeared. Because of that, Master God Diviner still had no idea that the Tao of Heaven had sealed the dragon folk. Long Batian said impatiently, Master God Diviner, things are bad. The heavenly Tao sealed the dragon race a few days ago. Upon hearing this, Master God Diviner's face fell. What about the dragon race? The heavenly Tao is only sealing, not massacring. Master God Diviner let out a long sigh of relief. It seems the Tao of Heaven still fears you and me. That's why it didn't slaughter the dragon folk. Otherwise, the dragon folk would be gone by now. He nodded. Long Batian had already guessed what Master God Diviner had said. Given the heavenly Tao's character, if not for Master God Diviner's suppression, it would have changed the power structure of the continent long ago. Now, it was only sealing the dragon folk. In the end, the heavenly Tao was still afraid of Master God Diviner. Master God Diviner, I understand what you're saying. Even so, this can't go on. The heavenly Tao sealed the dragon folk, causing everyone on the continent to panic. Why is the heavenly Tao doing this? To force Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon out. Long Batian was shocked to hear this. Master God Diviner, you and I both know that Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon fought the heavenly Tao. Although Long Tian escaped in the end, the man and the dragon had completely fallen. Even their remnant souls might not be able to survive. The heavenly Tao is like this. Long Batian cursed the heavenly Tao in his heart. Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon were clearly dead. Why was it still so stubborn? Master God Diviner laughed. What are you laughing about? Brother Long, you don't know. Back then, Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon obtained the power of the origin, but they didn't finish refining it. Instead, they fought against the heavenly Tao. If not for their arrogance, once the fusion was completed, the outcome of the battle would still be unknown. Long Batian nodded in agreement. How could Long Batian not know the strength of Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon? Countless people had cursed the man and the dragon in the battle back then. They had seen arrogant people, but they had never seen someone as arrogant as them. They dared to fight the heavenly Tao without even fusing with the origin energy. Just as Master God Diviner said, if the man and the dragon had fused with the origin energy, the outcome of the battle would have been uncertain. The heavenly Tao is very wary of the man and the dragon, so it won't allow the slightest mistake. The sealing of the dragon folk is to force the primordial divine dragon out. At that time, before the man and the dragon recover with Ronger's origin energy, we can destroy them in one fell swoop. Long Batian nodded. Even so, the chances of Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon surviving are close to zero. The heavenly Tao will only cause chaos on the continent. There's no benefit. How could Master God Diviner not know about Long Batian's worries? The heavenly Tao won't let that happen. Master God Diviner, if Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon don't appear, we can't continue like this. We have to think about how to deal with the heavenly Tao. The Martial Heaven continent had 3 peak experts on the martial path. They were Master God Diviner, the heavenly Tao, and Long Batian. In order of strength, they were Long Batian, heavenly Tao, and Master God Diviner. Long Batian was very clear that he wasn't a match for the heavenly Tao on his own. Only Master God Diviner could prevent the heavenly Tao from changing the balance of the continent. Brother Long, don't be impatient. I'll say it again. Unless the heavenly Tao can defeat both of us, it won't rashly slaughter the dragon folk. I know. It's good that you know. Since you're here, I was looking for you about something. I finally found something after leaving the continent. Long Batian was delighted to hear that. How could the heavenly Tao not know about Master God Diviner's return? However, he wasn't worried in the slightest. He hadn't slaughtered the dragon folk. Even if Master God Diviner came looking for him, he had a plan. It was just as Master God Diviner had guessed. The heavenly Tao didn't slaughter the dragon folk because it was afraid of Master God Diviner. Otherwise, in order to force Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon to appear, the heavenly Tao would definitely slaughter the Long family and the dragon folk. It was because of Master God Diviner that it could only seal the dragon folk first. It didn't even dare to seal the Long family. If Master God Diviner really did attack, the heavenly Tao wouldn't be able to stop him. That way, as long as Master God Diviner didn't interfere, the heavenly Tao would be confident in forcing Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon to appear. The heavenly Tao was truly afraid. After all, if Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon merged with their core, the consequences would be unimaginable. Chapter 1252. Leaving the Dragon Sect. Longao carefully searched every place according to the aura of the token. It was still the same sentence. He could not waste any unnecessary time. Otherwise, the more time he wasted, the more danger the old ancestor would be in. Although a reincarnator was extremely powerful, before awakening, the danger was too great. Nothing must happen to the old ancestor. Blood Soul Valley. Blood Soul Valley was a second-rate force in the Tianwu continent, ranked first. In other words, in the entire Tianwu continent, Blood Soul Valley was the most powerful force. First and second-rate force under the 10-direction tripod. Blood Soul Valley had a total of 3 Nirvana Realm martial artists. They were the Valley Master, Di Tianqing, the Great Elder, Ouyang Bu Luo, and the Second Elder, Han Yunshan. In the Tianwu continent, there were very few second-rate forces that could have Nirvana Realm martial artists. Longao had never thought that the location of the token's aura was actually the headquarters of Blood Soul Valley. It was not easy to find the whereabouts of the old ancestor among tens of thousands of Blood Soul Valley disciples. What should he do? Longao did not immediately enter Blood Soul Valley, but first entered Blood Soul City to see the situation. Blood Soul City. After 3 days of understanding, Longao had a rough idea of the situation of Blood Soul Valley. 3 Nirvana Realm martial artists. He had to admit that in the Tianwu continent, almost no one dared to provoke Blood Soul Valley, unless it was the 10-direction tripod. Then again, unless the 10-direction tripod had nothing to do, the 10-direction tripod would not allow Blood Soul Valley to exist. Although the token had locked the approximate location of the old ancestor, it was extremely difficult to find the real reincarnated body of the old ancestor. That was the case. Longao prepared to start with the young Valley Master of Blood Soul Valley. The young Valley Master of Blood Soul Valley was called Renlang. He was the son of Di Tianqing and was recognized as the #1 genius of Blood Soul Valley. Renlang had broken through to the Great Emperor realm at the age of 30. He was the most promising person to break through to the Supreme Tao. Great Emperor realm martial artists were nothing in Longao's eyes. Longao did not want to alert the enemy, but he had to find a heavyweight. Otherwise, it would be difficult to find the old ancestor's whereabouts. Who are you? In a private room of a luxurious restaurant. Looking at the young man who suddenly appeared in front of him, Renlang was shocked. Longao was dressed in black and had long blood-red hair. He gave off a cold and aloof feeling. Renlang had always been confident. He was the young master of the Blood Soul Valley, the #1 genius of the Blood Soul Valley and a great emperor. However, at this moment, Renlang had no confidence at all. The young man in front of him was too powerful. Supreme Tao martial artist, he had never thought that the young man in front of him was a Supreme Tao martial artist. Longao. Longao? Who was Longao? All of a sudden, Renlang seemed to have thought of something. His face became more and more shocked, because he already knew who Longao was. He was the one who broke into the Martial Artists Alliance by himself, killed the disciples of the Alliance, and escaped from the hands of the 4 super-strong men. Why would such a person suddenly appear? Master Long, may I know what business you have with me this time? No matter what it is, as long as I can do it, no matter how dangerous it is, I will do it. Renlang was scared silly. As the saying goes, a person's name is like a tree's shadow. All the things that Longao had done had already spread throughout the Tianwu continent. Such a person could cause a storm wherever he went. I want to find someone in the Blood Soul Valley. However, I don't want anyone to know about this, including your father. Do you understand? No problem. Master Long, May I know who you're looking for? Renlang didn't even think about it and directly agreed. In his opinion, with his status, finding someone in the Blood Soul Valley was a simple matter. He had never thought that Longao would come to find him for such a simple matter. I don't know where the person I'm looking for is. I will follow you into the Blood Soul Valley later. You just need to gather all the disciples and I will find him. Remember, don't tell anyone about this. I will leave immediately once I find the person I'm looking for. No problem. Longao nodded in satisfaction. He followed Renlang out of the tavern and headed for the Blood Soul Valley. As the junior valley master of the Blood Soul Valley, it was very easy for Renlang to casually bring someone back. From start to finish, no one dared to ask anything. Sect leader Long, you rest here first. I'll go make the arrangements now. I believe you should know that even if I'm the young valley master, I can't just casually gather everyone. If I can't find a good reason, it will attract attention and it will be very troublesome. Longao expressed his understanding. Renlang immediately withdrew. Gathering everyone in the Blood Soul Valley truly wasn't easy. Furthermore, he couldn't let anyone know about Longao's existence. Renlang arranged a very secluded courtyard for Longao. The surrounding environment was very beautiful. From this, it could be seen that Renlang valued Longao very much. However, after thinking about it, Longao wasn't only a supreme Dao warrior, but also a legendary person who could escape from the hands of 4 super experts. Such a person couldn't be treated lightly. In the courtyard, Longao wasn't worried at all. He was very clear about Renlang's character. He was a typical example of a wise man submits to circumstances. If this matter was passed to Shanghai, it would only benefit him. Without any hesitation, Ren Tianqing immediately got up and left the Blood Soul Valley. He rushed to the Martial Artists Alliance as fast as he could. As a Nirvana Realm warrior, Ren Tianqing's speed was very fast. He arrived at the Martial Artists Alliance in a few hours. Brother Ren, why are you looking for me in such a hurry? Until now, Shanghai still didn't know that Longao had entered the Blood Soul Valley. Previously, he had waited in the valley for 3 months. Shanghai almost went berserk. In the end, he still couldn't find Longao. Brother Shangwan, I have a very important matter to discuss with you. I already know about the enmity between you and Longao. Previously, you didn't find any trace of Longao, but I know where Longao is now. The Dragon Sect? Shanghai already knew that Longao had successfully returned to the Dragon Sect. However, the situation was different now. Even he couldn't openly attack the Dragon Sect. Brother Shangwan, Longao is not in the Dragon Sect. Looking at Ren Tianqing in front of him, Shanghai's heart skipped a beat. He knew Ren Tianqing's character very well. If it was such a simple matter, Ren Tianqing would not come in person. Could it be that Longao was not in the Dragon Sect at all? Ren Tianqing seemed to be able to guess what was on his mind. He nodded and said, Brother, I don't know why Longao suddenly came to the Blood Soul Valley. Ren Tianqing then told him what had happened. After listening to him, Shanghai immediately stood up. His face was full of surprise. He had never expected that Longao would suddenly go to the Blood Soul Valley. He was asking for trouble. Even if Longao was beaten to death, he would not know about the relationship between the Blood Soul Valley and the Martial Artists Alliance. He would also not know about Ren Tianqing's relationship with him. Chapter 1253. If Longao had been holed up in the Dragon Sect, he would not have been able to do anything. However, Shangguaniye was pleasantly surprised now. There's a path to heaven, but you chose to barge into hell. Brother Shangguan, what should we do now? Ren Tianqing did not believe it before. After all, with Longao's status and strength, how could he be an enemy of Shangguaniye? He was simply courting death. However, Ren Tianqing believed it now. That was indeed the case. Ren Tianqing could not figure out why Longao would choose to go against Shangguaniye. However, Shangguaniye was not only the deputy chief of the Martial Artists Alliance, but also a Nirvana Realm martial artist. His strength was above Ren Tianqing's. It would be a piece of cake for such a person to kill Longao. No matter what, Longao must die this time. Brother Shangguan, there's something I'm curious about. No matter how powerful Longao is, if you want to deal with him, it's almost. Before Ren Tianxing could finish speaking, Shang Wanyi's face darkened. Longao was a humiliation that he could never forget. Just as Ren Tianxing had said, with his strength and status, it would be a piece of cake for him to kill Longao. However, what happened in the end? Longao has a space divine device that can make him disappear automatically. Therefore, we have to be careful this time. We can't let him leave. It turned out to be a space divine device. Ren Tianxing knew very well what a space divine device meant. At this moment, he finally understood why Longao was so powerful. It turned out that he had a space divine device. Brother Shangwan, since Longao has a space divine device, it will be difficult for us to deal with him. Humph. I'd like to see how he can escape from under my nose this time. In the Blood Soul Valley, Renlang, the young master of the Blood Soul Valley, had gathered all the disciples in the Blood Soul Valley at the square. Everyone was very curious about what the young master was going to do. However, no one dared to not come. After all, Renlang's status was there. What do you think young Valley Master wants? Who knows? You guys, why do the young man beside the young Valley Master look so familiar? Although Longao's name had spread throughout the Martial Heaven continent, there were very few people who had actually seen him. At the square. Ahem, Brother Long, these are all the disciples of the Blood Soul Valley. Who are you looking for? Until now, Renlang still did not know who the person Longao was looking for was. In fact, even Longao himself did not know who the reincarnated body of the ancestor was. He could not find the ancestor just by sensing the aura. He could only rely on the token to sense the old ancestor's aura. Come with me. Taking out the token from his bosom, Longao walked into the crowd and began to sense each and every one of them. It was the stupidest method, but it was the only way to find the patriarch in the shortest time possible. Renlang followed behind Longao with a respectful attitude, like a mouse seeing a cat. Seeing this, everyone was shocked, because no one knew who the young man was and why the young Valley Master would be so respectful towards him. If they did not see it with their own eyes, they would not believe it even if they were beaten to death. The young Valley Master, Renlang, was not only the son of the Valley Master, but also the #1 genius of the Blood Soul Valley. At the age of 30, he had successfully broken through to the gold-grade Great Sovereign Realm. Everyone was optimistic that the young Valley Master would be able to trigger the Divine Tribulation within 3 years and reach the Divine Tao Realm. Everyone was very clear that even if the young Valley Master met the two elders, he would not be like this, let alone a youth of unknown origin. What was going on? At this moment, everyone was a little dumbfounded, but no one dared to say a word. The reason was simple. No one was a fool. Since the young Valley Master was so respectful towards this person, they could imagine that this person's identity was definitely not simple. If they were unlucky, wouldn't they be dead? Renlang followed behind Longao, not daring to say a word. He knew very well that although this was the Blood Soul Valley, his territory, and there were 3 Nirvana Realm martial artists, he did not dare to act recklessly. Once Longao went crazy, who could stop him? However, the Martial Artists Alliance was one of the 10 tripod forces, far above the Blood Soul Valley. In the Tianwu continent, who dared to provoke the Martial Artists Alliance? Because of this, not only did Longao barge into the Martial Artists Alliance alone, he even killed dozens of Martial Artists Alliance's Supreme Tao martial artists. Such a person was completely crazy. If Longao was a Nirvana Realm martial artist, or an expert at the peak of the martial Tao, it would be fine. But the worst thing was that Longao was only a great Sovereign Realm martial artist. He was only a Supreme Tao martial artist now. A great Sovereign Realm martial artist barging into the Martial Artists Alliance alone and killing their disciples was abnormal. That was exactly the case. Renlang was very worried. He was afraid that Longao would go crazy and attack the sect. At that time, it was still unknown who would be able to stop Longao. After all, Longao had disappeared under the eyes of the 4 Master. Longao was very depressed. Even if he had the token and could sense the ancestor's aura, he did not know how long it would take to search one by one. After all, the Blood Soul Valley had tens of thousands of disciples, not counting the protectors and elders. If this continued, it would be impossible to not be noticed by the higher-ups of the Blood Soul Valley. However, Longao was certain that the ancestor's reincarnation was definitely not a protector or elder. It should be an ordinary disciple. Searching for tens of thousands of ordinary disciples one by one was like looking for a needle in a haystack. However, Longao only had one token and could not search a large area. It was simply depressing. There was no other way. Longao did not want to waste even a minute. He had to find the ancestor as soon as possible. The Blood Soul Valley was the same as other sects. It was incomparably competitive. With the ancestor's reincarnation strength, there were many people who could kill him. Master Long, have you found him? Do you need my help? Longao did not speak for a whole hour. He was constantly shuttling back and forth between each person. From the beginning to the end, Renlang did not know what Longao wanted to do or who he was looking for. The person I am looking for is very important to me. I still have the same words. There is no enmity between me and the Blood Soul Valley. So, as long as I find the person I am looking for, I will immediately leave. Hearing this, Renlang let out a long sigh of relief. He was most afraid that Longao would attack the Blood Soul Valley. At that time, provoking a super killer for no reason was not worth it. As long as I do this, you just have to help me look after it and don't let anyone leave. After this matter, I will properly thank the Blood Soul Valley. Chapter 1254. Renlang shrugged helplessly. Since Longao had said so, Renlang could only do as he was told. Blood Soul Valley. In the main hall, Ren Tianxing and Shangguan Yi returned safely. Together with the two Nirvana Realm Elders of Blood Soul Valley, there were 4 Nirvana Realm martial artists in Blood Soul Valley. Not only that, to ensure that they could kill Longao, Shangguan Yi brought 4 Supreme Divine Path martial artists. Together with the 6 Supreme Divine Path martial artists from Blood Soul Valley, there were 10 Supreme Divine Path martial artists in total. Brother Shangguan, with so many of us working together, I don't believe that Longao can escape. If it weren't for Shangguan Yi, Ren Tianxing would never have provoked Longao. After all, Longao was famous for being crazy. He dared to create the Martial Artists Alliance and kill the disciples of the Alliance. It was obvious what kind of person Longao was. However, the situation now was completely different. On one side was Longao, and on the other side was Shangguan Yi. Whether it was in terms of strength or status, Ren Tianxing would choose Shanghai Yi over Longao without hesitation. Ren Tianxing nodded. Shangguan Yi's face was full of confidence. Looking at the glass ball in her hand, she said with a smile, Longao has a space artifact. As long as I interfere with the space fluctuation, I'd like to see how Longao can disappear. As everyone knew, Longao's biggest reliance was the space artifact. Back in the Martial Artists Alliance, Longao had used the space teleportation to disappear under the eyes of the 4 Master. Brother Shangguan, when shall we act? Ren Tianxing was a little impatient. He couldn't wait to act immediately. After all, Ren Tianxing had been sucking up to Shangguan Yi. After all, Shangguan Yi's identity was there. Others might not know, but the higher-ups of Blood Soul Valley knew that the reason why Blood Soul Valley could develop to such an extent was all because of the Martial Artists Alliance. Without the help of the Martial Artists Alliance, Blood Soul Valley wouldn't have achieved what it had today. They couldn't offend the Martial Artists Alliance. Remember, surround all directions. No matter who it is, if you let Longao go today, I won't show any mercy. I'll kill you. Upon hearing Shangguan Yi's words, the surrounding people were startled. To provoke Shangguan Yi, did water enter Longao's brain? No one could figure out why a mere dragon sect leader would dare to provoke the deputy chief of the Martial Arts Alliance. He was simply courting death. In Front Hall, the huge square was densely packed with people. There were at least tens of thousands of people. Longao was very fast. In about 6 hours, he had already sensed once with the help of the token. But the result was that he found nothing. Standing in the middle of the crowd, Longao felt extremely helpless. Even if he had the token, what could he do? He still couldn't find the reincarnated body of his ancestor. What should he do? Renlang stood behind Longao. Seeing that Longao didn't say a word, he didn't dare to say a word. Master Longao waved his hand. He was very confused. He didn't know why, but he had a bad feeling. It seemed that there was some danger. In the next second, before Renlang could react, Longao's figure flashed and appeared behind him. Master Longao, you're still so arrogant. Looking at Shangguaniya, who suddenly appeared in front of him, Longao already knew what had happened. Renlang betrayed him. Blood Soul Valley betrayed him. Although Longao had guessed that Blood Soul Valley would betray him, he never expected that Blood Soul Valley would ask Shangguaniya to come. The aura released by Shangguaniya had forced a path out. Looking at the Valley Master in front of them, no one knew what was going on. However, under such circumstances, no one dared to move recklessly. This was because everyone had a feeling that if they moved even a little, they would definitely be killed by the Valley Master. Shangguaniya, the Deputy Chief of Martial Artist Alliance, Ren Tianqing, the First Elder, and the Second Elder of Blood Soul Valley, the four Nirvana Realm warriors released their aura of heaven and earth at the same time. No matter who dared to move, they would be killed immediately. The four of them didn't dare to be careless. After all, Longao had a space artifact. What if he ran away? Putting the others aside, Shangguaniya was willing to sacrifice the entire Blood Soul Valley in order to kill Longao. However, Shangguaniya wouldn't tell Ren Tianqing and the others what she was thinking. So what if I'm arrogant? What does it have to do with you? Looking at Longao, Ren Tianqing and the others swallowed hard. They had seen arrogant people before, but they had never seen such an arrogant person. Who was Shangguaniya? The Deputy Chief of Martial Artists Alliance was considered to be at the top of the Tianwu continent. But even so, Longao still didn't take Shangguaniya seriously. At this moment, Ren Tianqing and the others finally knew why Shangguaniya hated Longao to the core. If they were in Shangguaniya's shoes, they would probably do the same. Ha ha ha, Longao. I know that you have a space artifact that allows you to disappear at will. But today, I would like to see how you're going to disappear in front of me. Just now, Longao had already tried. He was indeed unable to enter the Dragon Seal space, but he could use space teleportation. As for the reason, he had already guessed. It seemed like Shangguaniya and the others had used the space artifact to interfere with the fluctuations in the surrounding space. No matter what, in this battle, Longao was very clear that if he were to relax or be careless, he would fall into eternal damnation. Chapter 1255. Ren Tianqing sighed in his heart. Ren Tianqing knew that he would not be able to save his son this time. It was impossible for him not to resent Ren Tianqing. Ren Tianqing did not dare to say anything. Looking at Ren Tianqing, Longao smiled and said to Renlang, "This is your father." Renlang did not say anything. As the young master of the Blood Soul Valley, there were some things that he knew very well. Between him and the sect, there was no doubt that his father would definitely choose the sect over him. He felt a little desperate. Renlang knew that he would definitely die in this situation. Seeing that Renlang did not say anything, Longao sneered and said coldly, "Shangguaniya, do you think that you have one?" "Am I not?" Shangguaniya asked. In Shangguaniya's opinion, he had used his divine tool to disturb the surrounding space fluctuations, and it was impossible for Longao to disappear with the help of his divine tool. In that case, with his own strength and the help of everyone, Longao would definitely die. Both parties did not continue talking. They looked at each other, and a battle was about to break out. The surrounding disciples of the Blood Soul Valley stood still and did not dare to move. Time ticked by. No one knew how much time had passed. At this moment, Renlang, don't blame me. I have already said that this matter is not to be leaked. Otherwise, I will kill you. Winner takes all. I did not expect that my father would do this. Renlang closed his eyes tightly. He already knew what was going to happen. However, he did not dare to hope that his father would save him. Between the sect and himself, his father would definitely choose the sect. Crack. Renlang's body slowly fell to the ground. Longao did not refine Renlang's soul because Renlang was a good person. It was to show his respect. Longao, you only have yourself to blame. You can't blame anyone else. Ren Tianqing was rendered speechless by Longao's words because he knew that he had only himself to blame for this. If he hadn't told Shangguaniye that Longao had entered the Blood Soul Valley, then Shanghaiye wouldn't have come and his son wouldn't have died. If he had to blame someone, he could only blame himself. Longao, I will definitely have my revenge. You. If it was an ordinary person, seeing four Nirvana realm martial artists joining forces, they would surely be terrified. However, Longao was not worried at all. The more he was like this, the more worried Shangguaniye felt. After all, Longao's previous actions were still vivid in her mind. Shangguaniye seemed to be impatient. She said coldly, "Kill him." As soon as Shangguaniye finished her words, 10 Supreme Dao martial artists appeared behind her and shot towards Longao. According to Shangguaniye's previous plan, they would use the artifact to interfere with the spatial fluctuations and lock onto Longao's position. As for the 10 Supreme Dao martial artists, they would join forces to besiege Longao. No matter how powerful Longao was, he was still a spirit-focused martial artist. 1 against 10. How could a puny spirit-focused martial artist withstand the combined might of 10 Supreme Dao martial artists? After thinking about it, Longao was doomed. However, would Longao be afraid? In the next second, 10 people appeared in front of Longao. They were the 10 elders of the 9 Netherbird clan. The 10 of them were all Supreme Divine Dao warriors, and they were all corpse slaves. Not to mention their own strength. Just their immortal body alone was not something that the 10 of them could contend against. After all, if one wanted to kill a corpse slave, unless there was a great disparity in strength, it was very difficult to successfully eliminate it completely. 10 against 10. In a situation where they were evenly matched, Longao's 10 corpse slaves had a complete advantage. In just a few seconds, the 10 corpse slaves had suppressed the 10 of them and successfully killed one of them. Looking at the scene in front of them, Shangguaniye and the others were completely dumbfounded. Kill this person. In the future, I will do my best to help Blood Soul Valley and deal with the other 2 forces. His son was dead. Ren Tianqing knew that even if he had endless resentment in his heart, what was destined was destined. Since it could not be changed, he had to fight for more benefits for the survivors. Thinking of this, Ren Tianqing did not continue to hesitate. He gave the 2 elders a look. Then, the 3 of them shot towards Longao at the same time. As for Shangguaniye, he coldly stood where he was. From his point of view, the 3 of them were more than enough to deal with Longao. As long as he stood there, no matter which direction Longao ran to, he would be able to immediately intercept and kill him. Longao kept retreating. With the help of spatial teleportation, his body kept changing positions. His hands grabbed the surrounding disciples of Blood Soul Valley and threw them one by one at the 3 elders as if they were balls. Longao's strength was very strong. If it were Shangguaniye, she would not care about the lives of these people. In Shangguaniye's opinion, as long as they could kill Longao, it would be worth it even if they had to sacrifice the entire Blood Soul Valley. However, the 3 of them did not think so. If all the surrounding disciples died, the Blood Soul Valley would definitely suffer a disastrous decline in the future. If the Blood Soul Valley's strength was only in name, would Shangguaniye and the Martial Artists Alliance still support the Blood Soul Valley? Regardless of whether others believed it or not, the 3 of them did not believe it. The 3 of them tried their best not to kill the disciples of the Blood Soul Valley. Longao was smart. Although he threw the surrounding disciples out one by one, he did not kill them. In this way, the 3 of them would have a better chance. Seeing this, Shangguaniye instantly understood what Longao was thinking. She said angrily, "You 3 good-for-nothings. If you continue like this, I will destroy the Blood Soul Valley immediately." Hearing this, the 3 of them were shocked. They did not dare to provoke Shangguaniye casually. After all, Shangguaniye's identity and strength were obvious. If Shangguaniye really wanted to deal with the Blood Soul Valley, the Blood Soul Valley would have no chance at all. Gritting their teeth, the 3 of them looked at each other. They could see from each other's eyes that they were angry but did not dare to say anything. They had no choice. The Blood Soul Valley was only a second-rate force. They were not on the same level. If the Martial Artists Alliance wanted to deal with the Blood Soul Valley, the Blood Soul Valley would not have any power to resist. For the sake of the Blood Soul Valley, the three of them could only grit their teeth and sacrifice some of their disciples. However, in the next moment, Longao's speed increased significantly. Coupled with the spatial teleportation, his speed was so fast that the three of them could not catch up with him. In this way, whenever Longao threw out a disciple, the three of them would die without any resistance. If he threw out a disciple, the disciple would die. If he threw out another disciple, the disciple would die again. At this rate, it would not be long before all the surrounding disciples were killed. Chapter 1256. Longao's figure was like a gust of wind. In just a few minutes, the Blood Soul Valley had already lost hundreds of people. What did this mean? There were only tens of thousands of people in the Blood Soul Valley. If they continued to die like this, everyone in the Blood Soul Valley would be dead in less than 2 hours. Ren Tianxing's men were bleeding. Every time someone died, the Blood Soul Valley would lose a part of its strength. As the Valley Master of the Blood Soul Valley, he had to consider the interests of the sect before anything happened. He could sacrifice his son's life, but he could not sacrifice the entire Blood Soul Valley. Kill Longao for me. Shanghaiya was a little angry that they could not kill Longao after such a long time. He was almost certain that he had successfully interfered with the spatial fluctuations of Lin Fan. It was impossible for Lin Fan to disappear with the help of a spatial artifact. But even so, with the three people joining hands, they were still unable to kill Longao. They tried to be calm. Trash. The three of them cursed in their hearts. They could not wait to turn around and kill Shanghaiya. However, they were afraid of Shanghaiya, so they could only keep their anger to themselves. They had no choice but to sacrifice the sect disciples in the current situation. The three of them joined forces and released the aura of heaven and earth at the same time. Even an ordinary Nirvana realm martial artist would not be able to withstand it. In fact, Longao was also very serious. After all, the three of them were Nirvana realm martial artists. He was not a match for any of them in a one-on-one fight, let alone 1 against 3. He had to leave as soon as possible. Suddenly, Longao seemed to have thought of something. He was about to throw out the Blood Soul Valley disciples, but he put them down abruptly. He was just thinking about how to deal with the 3 Nirvana realm martial artists. He had forgotten that the reincarnation of the old ancestor was among them. If he was unlucky, he might accidentally kill the old ancestor. Longao did not continue to think about it. After all, the probability of this happening was very small. Only 100 out of 10,000 people would die. The surrounding Blood Soul Valley disciples had already fled in all directions. In the blink of an eye, the dense crowd had already disappeared without a trace. Longao heaved a sigh of relief. Because of the Grand Ancestor, he was really afraid that he would be implicated and hurt the Grand Ancestor's reincarnation. He kept retreating. Due to the other party's interference, Longao was no longer able to enter the Dragon Seal space. However, the only thing worth rejoicing over was that he could still use spatial teleportation, which could be considered a great fortune amidst misfortune. Longao's figure was constantly changing. Even with the 3 of them, it was difficult for them to pinpoint his exact location. A bunch of trash. After cursing, Shangguan Yi's anger reached its peak, and he dashed out of the room. 10 corpse slaves fought 10 people, and all 10 of them were killed. There was no doubt about it. The 10 corpse slaves were practically immortal. It was very difficult for merely a supreme divine way martial artist to completely exterminate the corpse slaves. Over time, there was only one outcome for the 10 people, and that was to be completely annihilated by the corpse slaves. As expected, the 10 people did not have the slightest chance and had all become corpses. Longao did not try to let the 10 corpse slaves deal with the 4 Nirvana martial artists. Although the strength of the 10 corpse slaves was not bad, and they were also immortal, it was still relatively speaking. It was indeed more than enough to fight against a supreme divine way martial artist. However, when facing a Nirvana martial artist, not only did the 10 corpse slaves have no chance of winning, they would even be directly killed by the 4 of them. They would not make unnecessary sacrifices. Longao was very clear about how useful the tin corpse slaves were to him. The tin corpse slaves had already disappeared. Longao was surrounded by the four Nirvana martial artists. The four Nirvana martial artists released the aura of heaven and earth in the four directions, and had already formed a huge cocoon. Puff. He spat out a mouthful of blood. If it was not for the protection of the sacred desolation physique, Longao believed that he would not even be able to withstand one palm. But even so, the sacred desolation physique was not omnipotent. He could withstand one palm. Even if he could withstand 2 or 3 palms, could he withstand 4 or 5 palms? As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Under the suppression of the 4 Nirvana martial artists, even teleportation was difficult to use. Under such circumstances, the result could be imagined. Longao was continuously hit by the 4 people, one palm after another. In less than a few seconds, Longao had already been hit by a total of 20 palms. What kind of concept was this? For Nirvana martial artists joined forces for more than 20 palms. One could imagine how terrifying the power was. If it was an ordinary person, they would have died long ago. However, Longao's situation was slightly different. Not only did he possess the sacred desolation physique, but he had also absorbed the dragon's blood. Now, his physical defense was much stronger than before. But even so, Longao still could not withstand the joint attack of the 4 people. Ha ha ha, Longao, I'd like to see how you escape from my hands today. Things had already come to this point. Shangguaniya was full of confidence that she could keep him here. If they could let him escape, they could totally commit suicide. Longao did not reply because he was already covered in scars. He was barely holding on with his last bit of willpower. Longao did not know how long he could hold on. Perhaps he would be killed by the 4 people in the next palm. However, Longao could not do anything. The gap between the Divine Path realm and the Nirvana realm was too big. They were not even on the same level. Moreover, he was fighting against 4 Nirvana realm martial artists as a Divine Path realm martial artist. Shangguaniya obviously wanted to kill Longao. She had used 12% of her full strength in this palm. Longao was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. When he fell, a deep pit was formed on the ground. The 4 of them were overjoyed. Without any hesitation, they immediately shot toward the deep pit. Shangguaniya, Ren Tianqing, and the other 3 people surrounded the huge deep pit. However, the 4 of them looked very pale. Their faces were full of surprise. They did not know what was going on in front of them. In front of the 4 people, in the huge deep pit, Longao's body had been smashed until it was almost deformed. It looked extremely terrifying and cruel. No matter who saw this scene, they would not hesitate to assert that Longao was already dead at this moment. After being beaten to such a state, if he was still not dead, then Longao was not human. Even if Longao had the protection of the sacred body of desolation, he could not withstand such a horrifying attack. Moreover, his body was deformed. They did not know if his spiritual soul was damaged. If his spiritual soul was not destroyed, Longao might be able to be reborn and even enter the path of reincarnation. The 4 people were surprised because when Longao was smashed into the deep pit, a layer of chi shield had already appeared in the deep pit. Chapter 1257. Brother Shangguan, what's going on? Shangguaniya's face was gloomy. Although they had not touched the air shield, they could clearly feel how terrifying it was. Let's attack together. I'd like to see if the air shield can stop us. The 4 of them could not figure out where the air shield came from. Could it be Longao himself? Impossible. Now that Longao's life was unknown, it was impossible for him to release the air shield. In that case, who could it be? However, since things had come to this point, Shangguaniya would not give up so easily. He looked coldly at the deep pit in front of him, especially Longao, who was in it. Until now, Shangguaniya was not sure whether Longao was alive or dead. He had to be 100% sure, so he had to break the air shield to know whether Longao was dead or not. The 4 of them attacked together with all their might. Originally, they thought that this attack would be able to directly shatter the chi shield. However, The four of them never thought that their full strength attack would be like hitting cotton. There was no strength at all. What was going on? The four of them were dumbfounded. Even a martial artist at the peak of the Nirvana realm would not be able to withstand their joint attack. Brother Shangguan. He waved his hand. Shangguan Yi knew what Ren Tianqing wanted to say. He said coldly, "From now on, seal this place. Remember, if this news spreads, I'll destroy the Blood Soul Valley." A threat. A blatant threat. Even if the three of them were unhappy, they could do nothing about it. After all, Shangguan Yi was the leader of the Blood Soul Valley. Even if there were 3 Nirvana Realm martial artists in the Blood Soul Valley, they could not compete with the Martial Artists Alliance. From now on, the 3 of you will guard this place closely. I will also stay in the Blood Soul Valley. I don't believe that the air shield will last forever. Shangguan Yi would not give up until he was sure whether Longao was dead or alive. Brother Shangguan, don't worry. The news of the battle in the Blood Soul Valley and the death of Longao did not spread. According to Shangguan Yi's instructions, Ren Tianqing immediately sealed off the news. The disciples of the Blood Soul Valley were only allowed to enter and not leave. This way, the news could not be leaked. Shangguan Yi had left and was temporarily staying in the Blood Soul Valley. As for Ren Tianqing and the other 2, they continued to stand guard around the deep pit as if they were guarding the entrance. The 3 of them were actually very depressed. They were the Valley Masters of the Blood Soul Valley. The first elder and second elder were also Nirvana Realm warriors. Yet, they were guarding this place. If this matter were to spread out, they would be utterly humiliated. Even though they knew that this was very embarrassing, the 3 of them still didn't dare to leave. They didn't leave even a single step. Valley Master, our Blood Soul Valley is one of the top second-rate factions. Even if we aren't as strong as the 10 great tripods, we shouldn't be so weak. The first elder, Ouyang Boluo, was very unconvinced. As the first elder, he was guarding the deep pit for others. Not to mention others, even he himself couldn't accept it. The second elder, Han Yunshan, was also angry. He said, "Brother is right. When we followed the old Valley Master, we had never been like this. I didn't expect that now." Although the second elder didn't finish his words, the meaning of his words was very clear. Ren Tianqing was not a fool. Of course, he understood the meaning of the first elder and the second elder's words. If the 2 elders left the sect, the Blood Soul Valley would be completely finished. What could he do? Thinking of the huge Martial Artists Alliance, Ren Tianqing felt a deep sense of powerlessness. As one of the 10 great tripods, the Martial Artists Alliance was too powerful, whether in strength or background. It could be said that if the sect and the Martial Artists Alliance confronted each other head-on, only death would await. He sighed deeply in his heart. One should not meddle in politics when one was not in position. Ren Tianqing was not willing to do so. However, he was the master of the Blood Soul Valley. No matter what happened, he had to consider the sect first, even if it meant sacrificing his son. First elder, second elder, if we turn against the Martial Artists Alliance, can we compete with the Martial Artists Alliance? He seemed to be a little impatient. Master, I know what you mean, and I also know what you're worried about. But I can tell you that you may not have taken the right step. What did he mean? Before Ren Tianqing could speak, the first elder continued, I believe you already know about Longao's situation. Longao's identity is not simple. The 5 Elements sect, the Long family, and the Heaven and Earth sect are all related to Longao. What's more, don't you have any feelings about the air shield in the deep pit? Ren Tianqing had almost guessed the first elder's meaning. He didn't think at all before flattering the first elder. Now that he thought about it, Ren Tianqing felt that something was wrong. Not only did he sacrifice his son, but he might also cause the sect to fall into eternal damnation. Master, the 2 of us have been working hard with the old master in the past, and we are grateful for the old master's kindness. So this time, we will help you without hesitation. After 3 days, no matter what happens, the 2 of us will leave the Blood Soul Valley and live in seclusion from Jianghu. The first elder and second elder felt that something was wrong. Everything was a little strange, especially the air shield that appeared above Longao. It was too strange. Rather than die here in the future, it was better to leave as soon as possible. Ren Tianqing was shocked when he heard the first elder and second elder's words. He knew very well what it meant when the two elders left the sect. The Blood Soul Valley used to have the help of the Martial Artists Alliance. But with the current strength of the Blood Soul Valley, even without the help of the Martial Artists Alliance, it could still dominate the second-rate forces. Once the two elders left, the strength of the Blood Soul Valley would be reduced by 2/3. If that was the case, the Blood Soul Valley wouldn't even be able to enter the top 3 among the second-rate forces, let alone the first place. It could be said that the Blood Soul Valley couldn't leave the two elders. Ren Tianqing never thought that the first elder and second elder would choose to leave the Blood Soul Valley. He could sacrifice his son for the sect, but he couldn't let the two elders leave. First elder. The first elder waved his hand. He had already made up his mind. He smiled bitterly and said, "We have made up our minds. Master, you don't need to persuade us. But Master, before we leave, we still want to give you a piece of advice. The matter of Longao ends here. Otherwise, the Blood Soul Valley will be destroyed." The Blood Soul Valley will be destroyed. Ren Tianqing knew that the first elder had never said that. He believed that the two elders wouldn't choose to leave unless it was a last resort. Was he really wrong about Longao? Ren Tianqing felt deeply helpless when he thought of Shangguaniye and the Martial Artists Alliance. Chapter 1258. Blood Soul Valley. In the ninth heaven, Master Clairvoyant and Long Batian stood quietly on top of the clouds. Both of them had watched the battle between Longao and Blood Soul Valley from start to finish. However, neither of them had made a move. Even though Longao had been hit by Shangguaniye with all her might, neither of them had made a move. Master Clairvoyant, why didn't you let me make a move just now? Long Batian was curious. After all, Master Clairvoyant valued Longao very much. If that was the case, why didn't he help Longao? At this moment, Longao's fate was unknown. Master Clairvoyant smiled. Brother Long, you lied to Longao this time because you wanted to train Longao. In that case, you and I shouldn't have made a move. Otherwise, you wouldn't have made such an unnecessary move. That being said, we don't know whether Longao is dead or alive. It turned out that the air shield on the surface of the pit was released by Long Batian. In other words, the air shield on the surface of the pit was the origin energy shield. It would be difficult to break the origin energy shield with Nirvana realm strength alone. If Shangguaniye, Ren Tianqing, and the others knew that the energy shield they had just attacked was the origin energy shield, what would they think? Brother Long, calm down. Longao is not dead. Long Batian was overjoyed when he heard Master Clairvoyant's words. He was about to make a move, but Master Clairvoyant pulled him back. Master Clairvoyant, Longao. Without waiting for Long Batian to speak, the godly mathematician continued, Brother Long. Since Longao has been chosen by you and me, then from now on, we should not interfere. If he can survive, then Longao is qualified. Otherwise, if he dies, then so be it. At worst, we will find another target. Although Master Clairvoyant's words were cruel, Long Batian knew that it was true. With their strength, it would be easy for them to help Longao. However, if that was the case, why did they choose Longao? As Master Clairvoyant said, they could have chosen anyone. Let's go. What about the origin energy shield? Based on my estimations, the barrier you set up can last for at least 3 years. Whether it's a blessing or a curse will depend on Longao's luck. He nodded helplessly. Now that things had come to this point, even if Long Batian wanted to help Longao, he could only listen to Master Clairvoyant. Master God Diviner and Longao turned and left. From beginning to end, no one noticed the two of them. 3 days later, just as the Grand Elder and Second Elder had said, no matter how Ren Tianqing urged them to stay, they still insisted on leaving. On the second day, after the two of them left, Tong Tiandi's group of 8 arrived. Shangguaniye knew that Longao had been hit by her, and the probability of him dying was very high. Anyway, the Blood Soul Valley had completely blocked the news, so even if the Martial Artists Alliance intervened, no one would know. The leader of the Martial Artists Alliance, Tong Tiandi, and the 8 vice leaders, including Tang Hao and Shangguaniye, were all present. The Martial Artists Alliance was very unhappy about the departure of the two elders from the Blood Soul Valley. However, the two elders' strength was obvious. Since they wanted to retire, they could only agree. If they provoked two Nirvana Realm warriors and forced them to do something desperate, it would not be a good thing for the Martial Artists Alliance. Looking at Longao in the deep pit, Tang Hao sighed deeply in his heart. He did not know whether he was dead or alive. Until now, Tang Hao had not realized what had happened. The Martial Artists Alliance had planned to cultivate Longao, but in the blink of an eye, the grudge between Longao and the Martial Artists Alliance had reached this point. It was unwise to provoke the Martial Artists Alliance. Tang Hao felt sorry for Longao. However, as the vice leader of the Martial Artists Alliance, if he had to choose between the Alliance and Longao, he would choose the Alliance without hesitation, not Longao. Leader, Longao was hit by us and fell into the deep pit. We don't know whether he is dead or alive. Tong Tiandi did not care whether Longao was dead or alive. After being hit by 4 Nirvana Realm warriors consecutively, even if he was not dead, he would be crippled. Originally, Tong Tiandi did not plan to come. However, when he heard about the mysterious energy shield, he came to take a look himself. The original energy shield? What? Hearing the leader's words, the 8 vice leaders and Ren Tianqing were all shocked. The 9 of them knew very well what the original energy shield meant. In this world, there were only 2 people who could set up the original energy shield. One was Tian Dao, and the other was the clairvoyant. Leader, is it Tian Dao or the clairvoyant? Ren Tianqing shook his head. It shouldn't be. The 2 of them would not interfere with such trivial matters. Moreover, if it was really them, they would not have casually set up the original energy shield. I believe they would have already made their move. Everyone knew that Tian Dao and the clairvoyant had truly stepped onto the peak of martial arts. It would be a piece of cake for them to kill them. The other 9 people nodded in agreement with the leader's analysis. If it was not Tian Dao or the clairvoyant, who could it be? The 9 people could not figure it out. As for Tong Tiandi, he carefully observed the situation. After an unknown period of time, Tong Tiandi finally said, according to my guess, if there is no accident, this is an original energy shield. Longao accidentally broke in. Leader, if that is the case, does it mean that we will never be able to kill Longao in this lifetime? The 9 people knew their limits. If they wanted to break the original energy shield, it would be impossible unless Tian Dao or the clairvoyant personally came. Waving his hand, Tong Tiandi smiled and said, according to the strength of the original energy shield, it seems that it will become weaker and weaker in a few years. At that time, we will join forces and attack with all our strength. I believe that the original energy shield will automatically disappear. After thinking for a moment, Tong Tiandi continued, Longao is already dead. However, just in case, we will start attacking the original energy shield in a year. Understood, leader. Everyone agreed with Tong Tiandi's plan. Just like that, a year passed unknowingly. The 10 Nirvana Realm martial artists joined forces to attack the original energy shield, but there was not the slightest change. The Martial Artists Alliance did not give up. While sealing off the news, they also guarded the deep pit with all their might. A year had passed, and the news of Longao's battle in the Blood Soul Valley still did not spread. In other words, until now, no one knew anything about this battle. It was undeniable that the Martial Artists Alliance had done a great job of sealing off the news. Otherwise, with so many people in the Blood Soul Valley, the news would have spread long ago. After the battle in the Blood Soul Valley, Longao fell. The Martial Artists Alliance tried all kinds of methods to break the original energy shield. The biggest reason was that Tong Tiandi hoped to find the original energy here. If that was the case, as long as he merged with the original energy, he would be able to reach the peak of martial arts. Spring passed and autumn came. Flowers bloomed and withered. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. Chapter 1259. 3 years. For a martial artist, 3 years was just a matter of minutes. For the past 3 years, no matter what the Martial Artists Alliance did, they could not break the air shield. According to what Tong Tiandi had said, The origin energy shield existed on its own and was not an origin energy shield set up by the way of the heavens or the oracle. In at most a year, the origin energy shield would slowly weaken. But let alone a year, even if it took him 3 years, he still wouldn't be able to break through the barrier. At first, they were very excited. However, as the 3 years passed, the 9 people of the Martial Artists Alliance, including Ren Tianqing, were getting impatient. Could it be that the origin energy shield could not be broken and they would stay here forever? That was not possible. Alliance leader, what should we do now? Even Shangguaniye was getting impatient. After all, he had a lot of things to do and could not stay here forever. I thought that the origin energy shield would weaken as time passed. Now, it seems that the origin energy shield is very strong. I have tried to sense it and found that Longao's aura has not leaked out in the past 3 years. Therefore, I can be 100% sure that Longao is dead. Longao was dead. Upon hearing this, Shangguaniye was overjoyed. He did not care whether they could break the air shield or not. The only thing that Shangguaniye cared about was whether Longao was dead or not. Now that they had confirmed that Longao was dead, Shangguaniye was ready to leave. Tong Tiandi sighed deeply in his heart, as if he could read the thoughts of the 8 deputy leaders. He thought that since the origin energy shield appeared here, there might be origin energy. However, they could not even break the origin energy shield, let alone obtain the so-called origin energy. Brother Ren, we are ready to leave now. As for Longao, I will leave him to you. Leave him to me? Ren Tianqing was curious and said, Alliance leader, since Longao is dead, why should we care about him? Let's just bury him. Tang Hao also said, Alliance master, Brother Ren is right. Longao is already dead. We don't need to waste time on a dead person. He thought for a moment. Nodding his head, Tong Tiandi smiled and said, You guys are right. Brother Ren, let's do as you say. However, this place must be sealed. No one is allowed to move without permission. Do you understand? Understood, Alliance Master. He felt helpless. As the Valley Master of the Blood Soul Valley, Ren Tianqing was being ordered around by Tong Tiandi. No matter who it was, no one would be willing to accept this. However, with Tong Tiandi's status, Ren Tianqing didn't dare to voice his anger. The next moment, Heavenly Emperor Tong brought the 8 Deputy Alliance heads and left. Before long, they already disappeared without a trace. Only Ren Tianqing was left in the square. His son was dead, and the 2 elders had left. Who had he offended? He thought that his flattery could help the development of the Blood Soul Valley. But what was the result? He didn't expect that the Martial Artists Alliance would sacrifice him and the entire Blood Soul Valley for Longao. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't angry. So what if he was angry? The previous Blood Soul Valley didn't dare to offend the Martial Artists Alliance, let alone the current Blood Soul Valley. With the departure of the 2 elders, the overall strength of the Blood Soul Valley had been reduced by 2/3. It was a big problem whether they could continue to be a second-rate force, let alone fight against the Martial Artists Alliance. Ren Tianqing sighed deeply again. Things had come to this point. He knew that he had suffered a great loss and there was nothing he could do. Now, there was only one thing to do, and that was to slowly develop the Blood Soul Valley and protect it. Looking at the deep pit in front of Longao, Ren Tianqing ordered the huge pit to be buried. 2 hours later, the deep pit had been filled. It was impossible to tell that there was a deep pit before. Inside the deep pit, after 3 years, Longao's aura had disappeared. Anyone would think that Longao was dead. But was Longao really dead? There was no doubt about it. In Longao's body, his divine soul was circulating. His damaged divine soul was surrounded by a kind of reincarnation power, and it was constantly healing his divine soul. The reincarnation power was the reincarnation power that Longao had condensed from cultivating the 9 Revolutions reincarnation technique. The 9 Revolutions reincarnation technique. Under normal circumstances, Longao being struck with the full power of 4 Nirvana realm martial artists, he would definitely perish. But what was the result? Longao had died, but the 9 Revolutions reincarnation technique in his body automatically circulated. Even Longao himself didn't know about this. The 9 Revolutions reincarnation technique was a heaven-defying cultivation technique born from the Dragon Seal space. It was extremely difficult to cultivate. Even Long Tian couldn't cultivate it back then. One could imagine how difficult it was to cultivate the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique. Long Ao's talent and cultivation speed were extremely fast. But even so, after so many years, no matter how hard Long Ao worked, he was only able to cultivate to the 2nd revolution of the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique, which allowed him to achieve spatial teleportation. Long Ao was looking forward to the next 7 revolutions of the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique. Since the 2nd revolution could allow him to achieve spatial teleportation, it was hard to imagine how big of a surprise the next 7 revolutions would be. However, Long Ao was very depressed. No matter how he cultivated, the 9-cycle reincarnation technique still did not move in the slightest. However, at this moment, the 9-cycle reincarnation technique automatically started to circulate. Moreover, it automatically released the power of reincarnation, firmly enveloping Long Ao's already destroyed spirit. In Long Ao's mind, the divine soul was surrounded by grayish-black airflow. Gradually, these grayish-black airflow began to spin crazily. The faster the spinning speed, not only did the divine soul slowly recover, it even began to slowly become stronger. Long Ao let out a low cry of pain. Because the deep pit was already buried, no one outside could hear him. If the 9 members of the Martial Artists Alliance and Ren Tianqing were here at this moment, who knew what they would think if they heard Long Ao's sudden cry of pain? Long Ao was hit by the full force of the 4 Nirvana Realm martial artists. There was no doubt that he would die. However, no one knew that Long Ao not only had the protection of the sacred desolation body, but also cultivated the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique. If Tong Tiandi and the others knew that Long Ao was not dead, they would probably regret it. If they knew, Tong Tiandi and the others would definitely not leave, especially Ren Tianqing. However, in order to deal with Long Ao, the Blood Soul Valley had not only lost 2 elders, but he had also lost his own son. The 9 revolutions reincarnation technique was incomparably powerful. The 9 revolutions reincarnation technique could fight against the heavens and earth. When his master completed the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique, he would also set foot on the peak of martial arts. Long Fu was looking forward to seeing his master take that step. At this moment, Long Fu's words suddenly appeared in Long Ao's mind. The 9 revolutions reincarnation technique was praised by Long Fu as the most powerful technique in the world. Chapter 1260. The 9 revolutions reincarnation technique would make a breakthrough every time he experienced a life and death situation. Long Ao had never expected that he would be able to rely on the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique to preserve his divine soul from being destroyed even though he had already fallen. Not only that, the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique began to circulate wildly and successfully broke through to the 3rd revolution. 9 revolutions reincarnation technique, the 1st revolution of reincarnation, not entering the Yellow Springs. The 2nd revolution of reincarnation, spatial teleportation. All along, Long Ao had always wanted to know what the 3rd revolution of the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique was. The grayish-black air current forcefully split the divine soul in Long Ao's mind into 2. That's right, the divine soul was split into 2. The most crucial part of a martial artist's cultivation was the divine soul. Once the divine soul was destroyed, not only would it be impossible to be reborn, it would also be impossible to enter the cycle of reincarnation. The divine soul was also the most important cultivation source of a martial artist. It was impossible to split into 2. However, the divine soul in Long Ao's mind was forcefully split apart by the power of reincarnation produced by the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique, forming 2 independent divine souls. If news of this were to spread, no one would believe it. Unbelievable. Howling in pain, Long Ao's body trembled continuously due to the pain. His divine soul was forcefully split into 2. Who could withstand such pain? Long Ao did not dare to be careless. Using his last trace of consciousness, he forcefully circulated the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique. Even so, his divine soul was still split apart. Large beads of sweat dripped down continuously. The pain of his divine soul being split into two was so excruciating that he did not know what to do. It was worse than death. Longao knew that this was the sign of a breakthrough in the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique. He had to grit his teeth. Otherwise, all his efforts would be for naught. The second revolution, teleportation, was simply too powerful. Longao was looking forward to seeing what kind of ability the third revolution would produce. He gritted his teeth and persevered. Longao's body was already filled with the power of reincarnation. Even his bloodline was being suppressed. The power of reincarnation was incomparably powerful. Longao gritted his teeth and persevered in such pain. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 2 hours, 1 day and night, 3 days and 3 nights. For 3 days and 3 nights, no matter how painful it was, Longao gritted his teeth and persevered. He did not choose to give up. Just like this, after 3 days and 3 nights, the soul in his mind finally split into two independent souls. Feeling the 2 divine souls in his body, Longao was a little dumbfounded. This was because a martial artist with 2 divine souls had never happened before. Even if he cultivated the 9 revolving samsara arts, it would still be very difficult for him to achieve this. What exactly happened? Longao didn't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing that he had used the 9 revolutions samsara arts to produce 2 souls. Longao's body couldn't move at all. The auras of the 2 divine souls were exactly the same. Longao was actually a little dumbfounded. He had thought that he had survived this calamity and could even break through the 9 cycles reincarnation technique. It was a double blessing. How could he have known that he would encounter such a situation right after breaking through the 9 cycles reincarnation technique? Splitting his divine soul into 2 was indeed a little strange. What should I do? Just like that, Longao lay quietly in the deep pit. He didn't move at all, as if he was half dead. Longao didn't continue to dwell on the matter of his divine soul splitting. He suddenly thought about what had happened before. He had been defeated by Shangguaniye and the others. Since that was the case, why didn't Shangguaniye and the others kill him instead of pulling out the weeds by the roots? If you don't pull out the weeds by the roots, they will grow again when the spring breeze blows. It was impossible that Shangguaniye didn't know this principle. If that was the case, why didn't Shangguaniye make a move? By the time Longao woke up, the origin energy shield had already disappeared. According to the clairvoyant master and Longao, the origin energy shield would disappear after 3 years, regardless of whether Longao was alive or dead. Longao didn't know about this, and neither did Shangguaniye and the others. Otherwise, Shangguaniye and the others wouldn't have left even if they were beaten to death. Just as Longao had thought, if you don't pull out the weeds by the roots, they will grow again when the spring breeze blows. Perhaps all of this had been premeditated by fate. It could also be said that Longao was too lucky. He had escaped a disaster and saved his life. Am I still in the Blood Soul Valley? Longao was a little surprised, because he was sure that he was underground and couldn't leave the Blood Soul Valley without anyone's help. What was going on? Where was the ancestor? This time, he entered the Blood Soul Valley mainly to find the ancestor's reincarnated body. However, before he could find it, he was besieged by Shangguaniye and almost died. Longao had decided that there were 3 things he needed to do to survive this disaster. The first thing was to continue looking for the ancestor's reincarnated body. After all, the ancestor's reincarnation couldn't be delayed. The more time he wasted, the more danger he would be in. The second thing was to take revenge on the Blood Soul Valley. Originally, there was no enmity between him and the Blood Soul Valley. He entered the Blood Soul Valley just to find the ancestor's reincarnated body. However, the Blood Soul Valley betrayed him and told Shangguaniye about his whereabouts. The third thing was to take revenge on Shangguaniye. Longao knew very well that if he didn't kill Shangguaniye, it would be troublesome for him. After all, Shangguaniye's strength and identity were obvious. 3 things. Each of them was incomparably difficult, but they had to be done, and they had to be done as soon as possible. Longao's mind was filled with all kinds of thoughts. The two spirits in his body were still wrapped by the reincarnation power and were constantly entering the two spirits. At this moment, Longao was still unable to move. The 9 revolutions reincarnation technique was infinitely close to a breakthrough. It could be said that he was halfway through the breakthrough. Longao knew that the breakthrough was only halfway, so he should be able to split his spirit into 2. The next half of the breakthrough was the most crucial. Until now, Longao still didn't know what the 3rd revolution of the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique would be. He also didn't know if the supernormal ability would be as powerful as spatial teleportation. Longao didn't dare act rashly. Under such circumstances, he could only do his best to circulate the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique and cooperate with the reincarnation power. Longao couldn't do anything else. This was because Longao didn't know if he would die if he messed around. The 9 revolutions reincarnation technique was too powerful. It could split one's spirit into 2. He believed that there wasn't a single cultivation technique in the world that could do this. In fact, Longao was also very depressed. This was because the 3 times he had broken through the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique, he had only broken through in a moment of life and death. He had almost died. Could it be that the subsequent breakthroughs would also have to experience a moment of life and death? If that was the case, it would be a little too painful. After all, no one knew if the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique would break through in a moment of life and death. What if he couldn't break through and died? P.S. Sorry everyone. During this period, Little 9 has been working outside. It's almost the new year, so he needs to earn some extra money for the new year. I'm not looking for any excuses. As soon as I returned home from delivering goods, I immediately started writing. Chapter 1261. At this moment, 2 hours after the divine soul split, the power of reincarnation in Longao's body began to circulate crazily. Longao was startled, but he still didn't dare to act rashly. Who knew what would happen next? 3 cycles of reincarnation, divine soul indestructible. For some reason, 8 words suddenly appeared in Longao's mind. 3 cycles of reincarnation, divine soul indestructible. What did that mean? Longao was a little dumbfounded. Could it be that with the breakthrough of the 9 cycles reincarnation technique, not only did his divine soul split into 2, but it also reached immortality? If that was the case, then he had really profited from a disaster. Longao knew very well what it meant to have an indestructible divine soul. The meaning was clear. As long as one's divine soul wasn't destroyed, one would be immortal. In other words, even if one's physical body was destroyed, one's divine soul could be reborn and even enter the path of reincarnation. This was the 9 cycles reincarnation technique. It was a little too powerful, so powerful that it was a little unbelievable. What happened next made Longao completely dumbfounded. After the divine soul split into 2, not only did it reach immortality, but it also produced another divine soul that left the mind and entered the dantian. The chaotic dantian was originally empty, but because of the entry of the divine soul, countless black chi suddenly emerged from the chaotic dantian and surrounded the divine soul. What was going on? Longao didn't dare to move. Everything that happened in his body was a little beyond his imagination. Such a thing had probably never happened before. In the next moment, the divine soul began to spin wildly, and the surrounding black chi began to pour into it. Doppelganger? Divine soul doppelganger? No, to be precise, it should be the reincarnation immortal doppelganger. That was the message that the 9 cycles reincarnation technique gave to Longao. At this moment, Longao finally understood what was going on in his body. When he broke through the 2nd cycle of the 9 cycles reincarnation technique, he produced the terrifying mystic ability of space teleportation. This time, at the moment of life and death, he broke through the 3rd cycle of the 9 cycles reincarnation technique. Not only did he forcefully split his divine soul into 2, he even reached immortality and condensed a reincarnation doppelganger. The characteristic of the reincarnation avatar was that it was indestructible. Not only was the divine soul indestructible, but even the physical body was indestructible. However, there was one thing about the reincarnation doppelganger. That was that the divine soul that was separated from the reincarnation doppelganger did not have the slightest consciousness of resistance. It completely obeyed the reincarnation doppelganger's orders. From a certain point of view, this was both a good and bad thing. In other words, the reincarnation doppelganger had a normal mind and was as smart as him. However, it only listened to his orders. As long as he did not give the order, the reincarnation doppelganger would not care about the lives of others. In any case, the immortality of the incarnation was what Longao valued the most. Longao was even more aware that reincarnated avatars were different from corpse demons and soul slaves. Whether it was soul slaves or corpse slaves, although they were said to be indestructible, under the absolute disparity in strength, both soul slaves and corpse slaves would be destroyed. However, the reincarnation doppelganger was different. Longao had a feeling that not to mention a Nirvana realm martial artist, even the heavenly Tao and the Oracle would find it difficult to destroy the reincarnation doppelganger. This did not mean that the reincarnation doppelganger could contend against a pinnacle martial artist. It only meant that the reincarnation doppelganger's physical defense could ignore all attacks. However, when it came to offense, if he and the reincarnation doppelganger worked together, it would be more than enough to kill a human god realm martial artist. Longao was confident that he could even fight an earth god. This was the power of the reincarnation doppelganger. Longao had never imagined that the third cycle of the 9 cycles reincarnation technique would be to reproduce an immortality doppelganger. This kind of doppelganger was even more powerful than teleportation. Longao had thought that after breaking through the 9 cycles reincarnation technique, this matter would come to an end and he could leave. But what was the result? Longao's face was filled with joy. Because he had broken through to the spirit focus realm not long ago, he had also successfully broken through with the breakthrough of the 9 cycle reincarnation technique. His divine soul had condensed and transformed from the spirit focus realm to the mortal god realm. In 3 years, Longao had broken through from the spirit focus realm to the human god realm. Although it seemed slow, it was actually extremely fast. A martial artist's cultivation itself was a heaven-defying act. It had to be done step by step. It was also because of this that the speed of martial artist cultivation was extremely slow. Often, it would take years, decades, or even centuries to break through to the next realm. Moreover, Longao had unconsciously broken through from the spirit focus realm to the human god realm. Longao was also a little dazed. He had clearly been beaten to death this time, but he did not expect that 2 joyous events would come at the same time. Not only did he successfully break through the 9 cycles reincarnation technique, but he had also broken through from the spirit focus realm to the human god realm. Inside the god-punishing sword,